Chapter 996. Songqing's spaceship was still cruising through the space-time tunnel, but the interior of the spaceship was no longer peaceful. Yuan Liang and the other three stared at this ordinary-looking adjutant in shock. Yuan Liang and Zhang Tianyang had been through a lot, so they were still able to keep their cool. However, Baiming and Mo and I were obviously panicking. As the saying goes, an expert knows the depth of a person's abilities. Baiming already had a feeling that he was no match for this person in front of him. "Who exactly are you?" Yuan Liang asked in a low voice. Ding Meng smiled. "Are you sure you want to see my true face?" Yuan Liang was stunned again. This kid's aura was too strong. His words were like a question. "If you really want to know who I am, I'm afraid you're in for a bad time." Everyone knew what the outcome would be if someone knew a secret they shouldn't know. Ding Meng's gaze fell on Baiming. He said sternly, "Who gave you the guts to kill someone from the Bingy group? I don't want to repeat it a second time." Mo and I gathered her courage and argued. "If you're from the Bingy group, then you're wrong. General of the North only accidentally killed 2 galactic traitors. You should know that the general was personally promoted by Chancellor Wenyang. If you dare to use force, then you're disrespecting Chancellor Wenyang. No matter who you are, you're at least a member of the Empire's military." Her voice suddenly stopped because her entire body seemed to have been enchanted. She instantly burned and extinguished like a light switch suddenly turned on and off. It was so fast that no one knew what to do. We turned around again, and Mo and I was already gone. She had already turned into a puff of smoke. A faint fragrance lingered in the air. Baiming was very familiar with this smell. Mo's perfume smelled like this, but now he couldn't even see what method Ding Meng had used. He killed without hesitation. "You talk too much," Ding Meng said disdainfully. At the same time, he withdrew the assimilation art and revealed his true face. Yuan Liang and Zhang Tianyang both cried out, "Ding Meng." Ding Meng smiled and said, "It seems that you two have good memories. You still remember me." They didn't just remember. They had witnessed Ding Meng's performance in the Storm Gathering. They had also heard about what happened in Forbidden Planet number 5. If they were still a little afraid of Ding Meng back then, they didn't even have the slightest bit of fear now. Their bodies were completely cold, and they didn't even have the thought to resist. Baiming's mind went blank. He never thought that the adjutant in front of him was Ding Meng in disguise. Who was Ding Meng? Even head of state Wenyang was afraid of him. He was the boss behind the scenes of the Bingy group. It was rumored that he was the most powerful person in the Bingy group. He had killed 2 people from the Bingy group. There was no need to think about the consequences. Baiming hurriedly explained, Chief Ding, this is a misunderstanding. Please listen to my explanation. There's no misunderstanding. You don't need to explain." Ding Meng lightly waved his hand. Even though Baiming had activated all of his origin energy, he was still sucked in. In Yuan Liang and Zhang Tianyang's field of vision, Ding Meng's palm blade only blurred for a moment before Baiming's temple let out a muffled bang. Then his head hung limply. Yuan Liang and Zhang Tianyang weren't idiots. They were shocked to see that Ding Meng had ended Baiming's life with a single strike. The Empire's newly promoted battle sage general was like a piece of paper in Ding Meng's hands. He died just like that. There really wasn't any chance for him to live. What happened next left Yuan Liang and Zhang Tianyang dumbfounded. Ding Meng waved his hand, and a sharp cookery knife appeared in his hand. This was the weapon that Little Arrow had used when he was alive. Ding Meng held the knife as if he was cutting vegetables. With a schwa sound, he cut off Baiming's head and placed it in his satchel. Then, Ding Meng's muscle-separating bone dislocating technique was like a skilled butcher dismembering an ox. In just a few moves, he removed all of Baiming's ribs, hand, and leg bones. He placed one of each into his satchel. Finally, he pressed his palm against Baiming's chest and lightly shook it. Pong! Baiming immediately turned into a white flame and melted into nothing. Ding Meng's smooth movements and dazzling knife skills made Yuan Liang tremble in fear. He had lived for hundreds of years and had seen countless murderous scenes, but he had rarely seen anyone as ruthless and cruel as Ding Meng. While he was still in a daze, Zhang Tianyang, who was beside him, leaped up and rushed towards the main control panel. Zhang Tianyang's target was very clear. He wanted to stop the spaceship from moving forward. "I'm no match for you, Ding Ming, but I can at least make the spaceship turn back, right?" He thought that he was fast enough, but just as his finger was about to touch the light screen on the control panel, he suddenly realized that the control panel had been split in half. It was as if the light screen had been split in half by Ding Ming's cookery knife. How could a light screen be split in half by a knife? Unfortunately, he would never know the answer to that, because Ding Ming was standing right in front of the control panel. His sharp hand chopped straight at Zhang Tianyang. It felt as if Zhang Tianyang had delivered his own head to Ding Ming's palm. There was another pong, but this time there was no source flame. Zhang Tianyang's entire body was split in half. Blood, bones, and flesh exploded like mud in the hall, splattering all over Yuan Liang. "Brother Yuan, it's your turn," Ding Ming said calmly. With a plop, Yuan Liang immediately fell to his knees. He was completely stunned by Ding Ming, because he knew just how big the gap between them was. Zhang Tianyang was an intermediate war god. No one in the Federal Empire would dare to underestimate someone with this kind of strength. However, in front of Ding Ming, he was like a piece of paper torn apart with a single palm. From the looks of it, Ding Ming probably didn't even use a battle skill. Even if Yuan Liang was given 10,000 guts, he wouldn't dare to resist. "You're worth teaching." Ding Ming slowly pulled back his hand knife. Yuan Liang was a few hundred years old. At this moment, he felt his heart beat rapidly, and cold sweat dripped down his head. How many years had it been since he felt this nervous? Wen Yang didn't use you guys again after returning to the Empire. How did you guys end up in the combined fleet? Ding Ming asked. Yuan Liang hurriedly replied, "The Federation's new president, Zheng Fangying, brought us here." Ding Ming was a bit surprised. "You guys first betrayed Wen Yang, but in the end, you were abandoned by Wen Yang. It seems like the Hidden Front can't tolerate you guys anymore. You guys turn around and join the Federation. Do you really think the Federation will tolerate people like you who change sides again and again?" Yuan Liang braced himself and replied, "We didn't want it to be like this. It was all Wen Yang's fault." Ding Ming said, "Considering how hard it was for you in the past, stand up." Yuan Liang felt like he had been pardoned. He slowly stood up straight. At this moment, he felt like his legs were weak. "Where is this Song Qing flying to?" Ding Ming asked again. Yuan Liang said, "The Black Handprint contacted us and specified that we enter through this wormhole. It won't trigger any restrictions." Ding Ming was amused. "So, you guys even hooked up with the Black Handprint?" Yuan Liang gritted his teeth and said, "I didn't want to either, but the Black Handprint can find mana. I just wanted to improve my strength and return to the Empire." Ding Ming sighed. "You still don't understand. People like you who are slaves can't go anywhere. No one will really accept you. You're just a stray dog." Yuan Liang gritted his teeth, but he couldn't find the words to refute. Ding Ming continued, "Your life has been tragic enough, especially that first love of yours. That's why I don't want to kill you. Go. Use the escape pod and leave this place. Find a place where no one will see you and live out the rest of your life." Yuan Liang didn't dare disobey him, so he took the initiative to leave the hall. As for whether or not the escape pod could survive the demon's wormhole, Ding Ming couldn't be bothered. Sparing Yuan Liang's life was already the greatest mercy he could give. Of course, the main reason was that the light around the tunnel was gradually becoming clearer. The spaceship was probably already at the edge of the wormhole. About 5 minutes later, the surveillance screen on the main control panel returned to normal. A vast expanse of space appeared before them. The wormhole had clearly transported the spaceship to another part of the galaxy. At the same time, the surveillance radar indicated that there was a large unit above the spaceship. Looking at it from another angle, it was actually a huge black triangular object. This was definitely not a space-drifting object, but a man-made object. Judging by its size, it should be a starship, but the Federal Empire rarely had any flying starships of this type. At this moment, all the data patterns on the main control panel screens disappeared, replaced by a black handprint. Yuan Liang wasn't lying. They were indeed here to negotiate with the black handprint. This was also the black handprint's usual style. First, They would hack your control system, then control your spaceship in the palm of their hand. However, Ding Ming didn't care. If the other party had really wanted to attack, the spaceship would have been destroyed by now. Therefore, he expected that the other party would definitely make a move. Countless rays quickly descended from the sky. A long-distance instant message was being generated. Not long after, a beautiful figure entered his vision. Ding Ming couldn't help but smile. "It's you again. It's really a small world." The mirror image was indeed Julie's projection. Julie scanned her surroundings with a surprised expression. There should have been 3 people on this Songqing, but it seems like they're not here anymore. Ding Ming said, "You're waiting for them?" Julie wasn't stupid. "It looks like they'll never come." Ding Ming said, "It's the same if I come." Julie took off her aviator glasses and smiled. "It's been a few years, Ding Ming." Ding Ming said, "From your tone, you must have thought that I died a long time ago. We're old friends, after all. Are you going to welcome me with such a hacker's welcome?" Julie smiled. "Don't be so formal. I did contact the 3 generals to meet, but it looks like they're in your way now. Of course, it's great that you're here. My father has always wanted to invite you over. Why don't you come over and have a chat?" Ding Ming smiled. "Of course." As soon as he said this, the triangular object above his head produced a huge gravitational force, slowly sucking the Songqing spaceship up. At the same time, one of the sides of the triangular object opened up, and the Songqing spaceship drifted in uncontrollably. This strange triangular object was really a starship, but Ding Ming had reason to believe that the Federal Empire's technology couldn't have built such an advanced starship. From a technical point of view, this shape went against the laws of flight. Chapter 997. The interior of the triangular starship was completely different from that of an ordinary starship. It did not have a normal cabin or tunnel. After the connecting cabin of Songqing's spaceship opened, Ding Ming was directly teleported to a special space. Upon closer inspection, it was similar to the command center of Divine Aerospace Ship. They were all facilities in the shape of streamers. The main control panel was a thin rectangular light model suspended in the air, delicate and elegant. Julie stood alone by the main control panel and looked at Ding Ming with a smile. "Welcome aboard, Scorpion." Ding Ming looked around. "Is it named after the 12 constellations?" Julie did not hide anything. "Yes, the Black Handprint has 12 such starships in total. They are horizontal: Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Lion, Virgo, Libra, Scorpion, Archer, and Scorpion. This is the strength of the Black Handprint." Ding Ming looked at her in surprise. "I believe what you said." Julie walked up to him slowly. "Are you surprised why I told you our background?" Ding Ming smiled. "Steam Bun has meat, but not the folds. I'm afraid the Black Handprint strength is far greater than this, right? But what I said is the truth." Julie stared at him. Ding Ming laughed in spite of himself. "I'm really not used to you staring at me like this." Julie also smiled. "That's because I'm honest. If we want to recruit people, we not only have to show sincerity, but also treat them with sincerity." Ding Ming glanced at her. "Since when did the Black Handprint want to recruit me?" Julie said, "Recruitment is beyond our reach, and cooperation is out of the question. However, my father has always wanted to meet you, but unfortunately, he didn't have the chance. This is an accidental encounter." Ding Ming said, "Yuan Liang, Zhang Tianyang, and Baiming are all generals of the Imperium. Why are you looking for them?" Julie looked around. "Haven't you noticed that there is no one on my starship? We've always been in need of people, and the 3 of them were undoubtedly very good candidates. Unfortunately, if I'm not wrong, the 3 of them should have been killed by you, right?" Ding Ming sighed. "To be honest, do I look like a bloodthirsty centaur?" Julie also sighed. "Tell me the truth. Are there any fewer people who have died in your hands?" This was a complicated question that was difficult to answer. For a moment, the atmosphere was a little gloomy. Ding Ming simply changed his words. "I remember you appeared on Rainforest Planet number 5-6 years ago, but you didn't appear in the temple in the end." Julie smiled and said, "Can't you guys just activate the divine light energy? Why do I have to go to the temple?" Ding Ming immediately understood. Although the black handprint did not appear in the end, they definitely did not lose out in the temple incident. Perhaps they even gained a lot of benefits. However, Ding Ming also knew that Julie would definitely not take the initiative to tell him the details. At this moment, Julie stretched out her hand and gently swiped. A screen immediately appeared in the air. The screen showed that the Scorpion starship had arrived above a black asteroid. Ding Ming's first impression of this extremely black planet was that it was the gray plain planet of the Silent System. The silent land of entropy was hidden in the eternal darkness. However, Ding Ming did not ask any more questions. Instead, he asked, "This is divine light technology, right?" Julie nodded. "Yes." Ding Ming said, "You guys are obviously related to the demons, but you guys know how to use divine light technology. I'm really curious." Julie smiled. "I know you have this question. Don't worry, my father will answer it for you." Ding Ming probed. "Your father is on this planet?" Julie explained, "This is the Black Handprint planet. It's 3,500 light-years away from the sacred Brilliant System, still within the main star system." Ding Ming was shocked again. That wormhole just now teleported a distance of more than 3,000 light-years. Julie nodded and said, "To put it bluntly, the power of the demon race is so exaggerated. Do you think that the Forbidden Temple is not even worth mentioning?" Ding Ming could only keep his mouth shut. The strength of the demonic sky empire had once again exceeded his understanding. The Scorpion starship gradually descended to the surface. Ding Ming acutely noticed that the ground was covered in black sand and rocks. There was an inverted, triangular crater in the middle of the ground. Its size was exactly the same as the Scorpion starship. The landing method of the starship was very strange. The sharp nose of the starship was inserted into the crater, and the other side of the tail was flush with the ground, filling up the crater perfectly. Even if one looked down from the sky, it would be difficult to notice anything unusual. This was obviously carefully designed. Walking out of the connecting cabin, Ding Ming found an extremely primitive elevator parked at the entrance of a tunnel. It was like a simple two-person lift in a mining area, slanting downward. The tunnel was extremely long, and the elevator had been operating for more than half an hour. Their current position was probably deep in the Earth's core. When the elevator stopped operating, Ding Ming spread out his psychic vision and discovered that this was a very vast and complicated underground palace. Countless passages crisscrossed, and countless palaces were stacked on top of each other. The surrounding walls were mostly made of stone, supplemented by a small amount of bones. He could not tell what kind of creature's bones it was. Whether it was the walls or the passages, many places were engraved with strange symbols and runes. These were definitely not the patterns of the Mao Xing civilization. Instead of calling this an underground palace, it was more like an interstellar ruin, because from the various traces of decay, this place had been abandoned for a long time. Could this be the headquarters of the Black Handprint? This was completely different from the Black Handprint that Ding Ming had imagined to be run amok by demons with superb hacking skills. After passing through a long corridor, a light finally appeared in front of them. Upon closer inspection, it was a huge, three-dimensional map of the Sacred Splendor star system. It was drifting in an ancient and spacious palace. Not far from the map was a stone chair, on which sat a skinny old man. The old man was so thin that he was skin and bones. His face was sallow, and his cheekbones were protruding. He wore a black robe, and his face was ordinary but weathered. In Ding Ming's perception, the old man was very weak, as if he was in the final stages of his life and could collapse at any time. Julie stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Father." Ding Ming was shocked. Could this be the mysterious and omnipotent Black Handprint helmsman, the Fifth Lord? The Fifth Lord struggled to get up. He first nodded slightly at Julie, then smiled at Ding Ming. When he didn't smile, one would think that he was just a weak and sickly old man who lived in this dark underground, his life full of loneliness and dullness. However, this smile gave one the illusion that this was clearly a friendly and amiable neighbor. Although his face was old, his eyes shone with the vitality of a young man and the wisdom of an old man. Ding Ming asked tentatively, "The Fifth Lord?" The fifth lord said, "We finally meet, Ding Ming. It's a bit of a pity that I didn't get to meet my young friend Xinjie." Ding Ming suddenly sighed. The fifth lord smiled. "Is it because my appearance is different from what you imagined?" Ding Ming nodded. "Indeed," the fifth lord asked with interest. "Then in your imagination, what should I look like?" Ding Ming pondered and said, "I always feel that you're a very mysterious person, and you give people a very scary feeling." The fifth lord smiled again. "Mysterious is acceptable, but you shouldn't think that I'm scary." Ding Ming asked why. The fifth lord stretched out his thumb and index finger and gently flicked it into the air. A light spot immediately entered the star map, and the map instantly changed into a three-pronged star map that emitted a huge wave of energy. "You?" Ding Ming was shocked beyond words. "The energy of this divine light. You're the great elder of the Mao Xing royal family?" The fifth lord nodded. "The real fifth lord died a long time ago. I'm just borrowing his body as a host." His words were understated, but Ding Ming's shock at this moment was unprecedented because only he knew how difficult it was to achieve this. It was not easy for the Mao Xing spiritual body to survive, and it required a lot of luck to attach itself to a host. Finally, the conditions to transform into a human were extremely harsh. Most importantly, Ding Ming had already sensed the fifth lord's casual flick. The fifth lord was not inferior to him, but he could not estimate how powerful he was. At this moment, he finally believed what Julie said before. If the black handprint really wanted to deal with him, his soul would have been destroyed long ago, and dying a few hundred times would not be enough. The fifth lord seemed to have guessed his thoughts. "We are the same race, but we are not. We are not friends, but we are not enemies either." This was very difficult to understand. So Ding Ming simply asked, "It seems that the great general brought your spiritual body out of the Forbidden Land is true." The fifth lord said, "At that time, the great general's strength was similar to yours, but he was still destroyed by the demons." Ding Ming was moved. "Are the warriors of the demons that powerful?" The fifth lord said, "It's not that the warriors are that powerful, but that the Demon Sky Empire is that powerful. Otherwise, how could the Mao Xing kingdom be destroyed?" At this moment, Julie stretched out a slender finger and lightly flicked it at the star map. A black line was injected into the mirror image, and the three-pointed star changed into another mirror image. This was a devil's mask, and no words could describe this face. It was as if the most clumsy craftsman had used a red-hot soldering iron to rudely grind a human face. Even the ugliest devil in hell was not as terrifying as this face. Even for a master with a strong heart like Ding Ming, he felt very uncomfortable with just one look. It immediately made him feel irritable, violent, bloodthirsty, and disgusted with all kinds of negative emotions. He would want to kill anyone he saw, rob anyone he saw, and ravage any beautiful woman he saw. Even if a small fish was placed on the ground, he would want to stomp it to pieces. This feeling was very unpleasant, and Ding Ming took a deep breath to suppress it. Julie waved her hand again, and it seemed like she had retracted the energy. The mirror image of the mask turned back into the star map, and the palace regained its blue luster. Ding Ming had broadened his horizons today. Although the current Julie was not as strong as him, the gap between them was very small. Ding Ming seemed to have realized something. "You're not the real Julie." Julie smiled. "That's right. Back at the Black Gold base, you had severely injured her. In the end, she still died." Ding Ming said, "You're the host of another spiritual body?" Julie smiled. "Do you want to know who I am? Don't be surprised." Chapter 998. Julie channeled the divine light energy in her body again, and a familiar aura rushed out. It was exactly the same as Ling Xingqi's aura. Ding Ming was shocked again. "General," Julie said seriously, "wrong." Ding Ming was shocked. "Are you the real princess?" Julie smiled. "Haha, even you think I'm the real princess? Where are Ariel and the others?" Ding Ming immediately raised his guard. The fifth lord smiled again. "Don't be nervous. Ignorance and prejudice have long been worn away by the river of time. We now know that Princess Ariel and the guard are relying on you to be reborn. You also represent the most orthodox path of the divine light in our Pearl race. Ding Ming felt his mind was in a mess. What is going on? The Fifth Lord sighed. Actually, the princess and I have already reached an agreement. We decided that the general would take our spiritual bodies out. In the end, we chose the unknown black handprint force and relied on the Fifth Lord and his daughter to be reborn. During this process, we were discovered by a strange person in the human world. She sealed the black handprint. You and Xin Jie should be very familiar with this person. Her name is Jiang Yinyun, and her code name is the Grassroots Empire. Ding Ming said, I still don't understand. Why did she seal the black handprint in the first place? It's a long story, but I'll explain it to you again so that you can have a deeper understanding of the overall situation. The Fifth Lord said slowly. When the Mao Xinhua Empire was about to collapse, they actually retreated in 5 different directions. We were only one of them. The purpose of this was to avoid the pursuit of the Demon Sky Empire. Of course, it was impossible to completely avoid them. The Demon Sky Empire would definitely split up and move at the same time, but we didn't want their main force to follow behind us. Ding Ming frowned. Why? Julie explained. With our strength at that time, we weren't actually afraid of the pursuers. We might have even intercepted and killed them halfway. But we thought about the long term. We were only temporarily taking refuge. One day, we will return. Ding Ming nodded. You'll only expose yourselves if you try to kill him halfway. The Fifth Lord continued. Long before the war between the Mao Xing Kingdom and the Devil Sky Kingdom, the 6 territories were already in chaos. Because of that unprecedented battle, the 6 great experts severely injured their Sky Sovereign King, and the Sky Sovereign King took advantage of the chaos to escape. The AIG Xing Kingdom was also shattered. Of the 6 great experts, only Queen Ming Yen was left. The Devil Sky Kingdom's Zhenyan Emperor was killed by the Sovereign King, and the new Devil King Xie Yi replaced him to take control of the Devil Sky Kingdom. Ding Ming asked, Are you thinking of a king? The Fifth Lord said, In this universe, if there's really someone who can deal with the Yelwan Kingdom and the Devil Sky Kingdom, it's undoubtedly the Sky Sovereign King. Ding Ming was silent. He definitely wouldn't tell the Fifth Lord and the Fifth Lord that the Sky Sovereign King had died long ago. Unexpectedly, the Fifth Lord said something shocking. But in my guess, the Sky Sovereign King might have already fallen. Ding Ming was shocked. Why do you say that? The Fifth Lord's expression gradually became serious. He paced around the star map with his hands behind his back, seemingly deep in thought. The Sky Sovereign King is a very smart, decisive, and resolute person. It wasn't by chance that he became the overlord of a generation. He didn't rely solely on his martial prowess, but also his tenacious willpower and resolute execution. After he escaped with his injuries, tens of thousands of years have passed. He hasn't returned for such a long time. Even if he makes a comeback, it won't mean much. Ding Ming nodded. Even if he recovers from his injuries and increases his strength, it's been such a long time. If he returns to the 6 dominions and finds that the AIG Star Kingdom has already been destroyed and Queen Mingyan's power has already been established, his chances of revenge will be even lower. Perhaps he returned to the 6 dominions to seek his own death. The Fifth Lord looked at Ding Ming with admiration. Ding Ming's train of thought was undoubtedly very meticulous. But we must find the Sky Sovereign King himself. Julie spoke again. Ding Ming probed. Are you sure he escaped to our sacred glory star system? Julie didn't answer this question directly. The Fifth Lord sighed. In a vast sea of stars, without specific coordinates, it's difficult to find even a planet or a star region, let alone a person. Julie said, However, when we arrived at the Rainforest planet in the Fertile Chalk system, we found out that the main force of the Matian Empire was pursuing us. It was a group of experts led by the Matian Prince Xielong. This Xielong is Xie Yu's younger brother, and he's terrifyingly strong. Ding Ming was obviously very smart. He immediately figured out the crux of the matter. Both you and Xielong know that the Sky Sovereign King must have escaped to this area, But you don't know where he is? And I'm afraid that the sky's sovereign king isn't the only person you're looking for. The fifth lord nodded. He knew that there was no point in hiding anything from Ding Meng. The legendary Entropic Solitude Temple is only known to the sky's sovereign king himself. Only after entering the temple, whether it's the AG Star Kingdom or the Mouse Star Kingdom, will we have the capital to revive our country. We'll have the capital to fight against the Night Phoenix and the Mouse Star Kingdom. Ding Meng smiled bitterly to himself. Even he, the sky's sovereign king's heir, didn't know about the legendary temple, let alone them. The sky's sovereign king's seal didn't even mention the location of the temple. Even Sokka's probably didn't know about such a huge secret. The only thing that made sense was that only the sky's sovereign king himself knew about this secret. However, the sky's sovereign king was dead, and this secret was buried forever. Julie then said, after we arrived at the Wakik system, the demon's pursuers arrived very quickly. Because the evil dragons were too strong, we had no choice but to activate the divine light array to seal the remaining energy, including ourselves. Ding Meng also understood this point. It was like sealing oneself up and not giving the enemy any chance to discover one's presence. Doing so would exhaust one's energy sooner or later, but it was the same for the enemy. I'm afraid that Xielong has also died over the years, right? The fifth lord nodded. I believe that he's already dead, but he didn't die of exhaustion. Ding Meng was a little surprised. Oh, what do you mean? The fifth lord said, the demons are very powerful in our eyes, but they're actually very weak in the human world, especially carbon-based life forms. You can think of demons as energy life forms. They exist in the form of energy. Some demons are too powerful, but that's because they've cultivated over a long period of time to materialize their energy. Let me give you two examples. One is the true essence red crystal formed by the divine light energy, and the other is the low-level life forms in the devouring realm who cultivated their immortal apertures and advanced to the soul essence realm. Ding Meng listened quietly. The fifth lord said, not only does maintaining the demons require a large amount of resources, but the most important thing is to devour emotions, thoughts, and minds. From a human's point of view, these things are called negative energy. When we arrived on the rainforest planet, the human world was still in the slash and burn era, but now that we've entered the era of origin energy technology, the human race's progress is extremely fast. Moreover, no matter how the human world develops and changes, they've always revered the good and the beautiful. This happens to be the opposite of the demon's ideals. The human world's so-called love and peace coincides with Mao Xing's divine light energy, and this happens to be the nemesis of the demon's energy. Ding Meng began to understand what he meant. Positive energy restrains negative energy? Julie explained, if this was a world where everyone was suspicious of each other and viewed each other with hostility and hatred, then the demonic sky cultivators would have a core source of energy that could allow them to continue and even evolve. They would become unprecedentedly powerful. On the other hand, if there was no hatred or war in this world, and everyone lived in peace, and everyone revered the good and the holy, what could the demonic sky cultivators possibly devour? They could only rely on the energy they brought with them, and in the end, they would end up like the gods who sealed themselves away, inching closer and closer to death as time passed. This is a very mysterious way of putting it, but I'm sure you can understand it. For a moment, Ding Meng could not help but recall the discussion between Little Rascal and Little AI. In this vast and boundless universe, all matter could be analyzed, all phenomena could be relied on, and all changes could be found. However, there was one thing that could never be explained, and that thing was called love. Love was neither matter nor energy. It cannot be seen, touched, and had no precise definition. It also did not have wave-particle duality. It even violated too many laws in the universe, but it could often give birth to many miracles. Little AI had once described love as an unparalleled ultimate weapon. No martial arts, divine weapons, starship cannons, or steel torrents could defeat it. Therefore, Ding Ming could also imagine that it was very difficult for the demonic sky warriors to survive in the Federal Empire. After all, trillions of people yearned for a better life and world peace. Although there had been the Southern Horizon War, the Devouring World War, and the Fertile Chalk Galaxy War, the mainstream of human development until today was still not the law of the jungle. Most people and things still had the quality of truth, kindness, and beauty. The Fifth Lord continued, "The demonic sky warriors will not be willing to die just like that. They are like us, self-proclaimed as a higher civilization. They will definitely find a way to change the situation, adapt to this human world, and find the most reasonable path to achieve their goal." Hearing this, Ding Ming had a rough idea. An organization like the Hidden Front was created by the demonic sky warriors, right? The Fifth Lord revealed a bitter smile. The evolution of a spirit body into a human is indeed a very long and difficult process. During this process, the Grassroots Empire discovered the existence of two alien civilizations. When they sealed me, they also sealed Xiaoyu. Ding Ming nodded, because an expert like her had already foreseen that when you break out of your cocoons and are reborn in the future, you will only bring disaster and destruction to the human world. Because the improvement of Shengguang energy and demons energy far exceeds the steady cultivation of origin ability users, and the lifespan of humans is too short compared to you. Whether it is the Federal Empire, the Devouring World Frogman race, or even the Divine Wars Starfield's Green Tree race, everything will change in the future. If it is not the world of Shengguang technology, then it will be the demonic domain that is surrounded by war. The Fifth Lord said seriously, "So, I want to thank you and my young friend Xinjia. You have lifted the seal." Ding Ming suddenly remembered the voice message left by the Grassroots Empire before he lifted the seal in the Fifth Lord's manner. "Since you have lifted the seal, you must be mentally prepared. You will face an unprecedentedly powerful monster. Whether it is a friend or a foe, it is not within our expectations. In the future, it will be filled with countless variables." This was Pandora's box. Once it was opened, disasters would swarm in, but at the same time, countless hopes would be born, and the future would be filled with endless possibilities. Chapter 999. The star chart was still shining, and the meeting was still ongoing. Ding Ming asked, "So what's with the dual cultivation of gods and demons?" The Fifth Lord immediately looked at Julie. Julie stretched out her finger again, and a bright cross-shaped star immediately spun and danced on her fingertip. It was clearly a very pure source of divine light essence. The Fifth Lord explained, "Divine light technology is also known as solid light technology. It can convert between liquid, solid, and light. However, it also has a premise, which is that it is built on top of true Yuan crystals. This Saint Brilliant star system is located in a remote part of the universe, and its resources are very poor. If you use divine light technology for a long time, your energy will be depleted sooner or later. Therefore, I suggest that you learn from the demons and use them to make up for your own shortcomings." Ding Ming was shocked. "You are all pure martial artists of divine light. Aren't you afraid of being devoured by the demonic energy?" The Fifth Lord's expression was serious. "It's not like this hasn't happened before. The Fifth Lord's general, Widow, once fought with you in the Devouring Realm. She's a classic example." Ding Ming nodded. "She has already evolved into a demonic fish." The Fifth Lord said, "She's the same with a weak will. However, a person with a strong will never be like that. It's the opposite. He can master the characteristics of the two races and combine them into one. He can exploit his strengths and avoid his weaknesses." Ding Ming's gaze also fell on Julie. Julie was in such a situation. Her physical body was Julie's, and her spiritual body was under the influence of the princess. Her martial arts were Mao Xing's, and her martial arts were Mao Xing's. No, there was a big problem here. Ding Ming recalled the situations when he fought with every demon race martial artist. Typical examples were Towering Heaven Peak, Widow, Gong Ping, and the others. In fact, they were no different from ordinary people. Only when they were forced to the end of the line would the demon spirit in their body reveal its true form. In essence, a demon race martial artist would always be a demon race martial artist, regardless of whether he used the divine light energy source or the demon sky martial skills. This logic was actually very simple. It was like a bottle of clear water. If you poured ink into it, it would definitely turn black. If you insisted that the two had fused together, it would seem that way. However, there was one point that you could not refute, which was that the clear water had already changed in essence. Ding Meng suddenly sighed. The evil dragon people are also making arrangements. They're also looking for changes. Maybe they're also looking for all the resources they can use. This would explain why there are also demons in the God War Starfield. The gods and demons are originally from the same family. This saying makes sense. Julie also sighed, but there are very few real gods now. Aside from your force, me, and the elders, there are no pure gods outside. You're also not a pure god now, okay? Ding Meng really wanted to refute her, but after thinking about it, he was also not a pure god. Even Little Rascal and Little Love were not pure gods, because they were already in human form. They were only able to cultivate the Mao Xing techniques and absorb the godlight energy. That's all. The real Mao Xing civilization had already been annihilated in the long history of the universe. The Pearl people had already gone extinct, leaving only a trace of obsession to revive their country. In fact, Little Rascal and the others had already given up on this idea. In Little Rascal's opinion, experiencing the beauty of life with their family and friends was the right way to go. For a moment, Ding Meng was also a bit stunned. He was just like his big brother back then. He was in a daze. What have I been thinking all this time? What have I been doing? Do these things really have meaning? Do they really make me happy? He suddenly remembered the time when he was wandering in the Wei Dynasty. If there was really happiness in his life, then the happiest period was undoubtedly the time when he and big brother Zhengming went into the mountains every day to cut wood and grass to earn a meager income to survive. Although that time was full of misfortune and disaster, it was also full of hope and laughter at the same time. Ding Meng did not agree with the saying that the past was good, but there were really good days in the past. As for how good, it depended on how you looked at it. Julie's voice pulled Ding Meng back to reality. No matter what, the demons will always be our enemy. We can't just sit by and watch Evil Dragon and the others grow stronger. Ding Meng said, but the demons are indeed growing stronger step by step. Let's not talk about other things. Wen Yang is already a warrior of the demons. I'm curious about one thing. Why didn't you and the Fifth Lord participate in the fight for the energy temple of planet number 5? The Fifth Lord said, I also want to ask you, do you know Evil Dragon's true identity now? Where is he? Where are his exact coordinates? How many helpers does he have? Which areas does he control? After a series of questions, Ding Meng also understood. This was the principle of kings, not meeting kings. He knew nothing about Evil Dragon. If Evil Dragon did not show himself, then why would the Fifth Lord expose himself? Ding Meng realized that the elder's thinking was also very cautious. His strategy was also to seek stability in the midst of danger. In the current situation, every expert was suspicious. Ding Meng probed, is it possible that head of state Wen Yang and the current president Zheng Fangying are evil dragons? Absolutely impossible. The Fifth Lord flatly rejected. Ding Meng could not help but ask why. The Fifth Lord said, people of that level dare to appear in public and cause trouble. This is definitely not the style of the demons led by Evil Dragon. In my impression, Evil Dragon is extremely shrewd and powerful. He is definitely not inferior to me. People like Wen Yang, Lin Fei, and Gong Ping are not worthy of my attention. I don't need to deal with them. You could take care of them. Ding Meng could not help but respect the Fifth Lord. This was what it meant to not underestimate one's enemies. This was a precious quality that many experts rarely had. Julie added, the elder also values head of state Wen Yang and president by Xing Fei. Ding Meng asked, what do you mean? Julie said, when Lin Fei caused trouble on planet number 5, we originally wanted to invite Wen Yang here to discuss important matters. However, halfway through, we were attacked by the hidden front. The hidden front took Wenyang away. You saw what happened after that. Ding Ming nodded. That was a turning point. After Wenyang went to the hidden front, he actually learned the martial arts of the demons. The hidden front was definitely an organization of demon sky martial artists. This was something that could not be denied. The Fifth Lord said, Ding Ming, have you thought about this problem? The Holy Brilliance faction is in an uproar. How can the real Miran Kingdom and Demon Sky Kingdom just sit by and watch? Ding Ming was stunned. The Fifth Lord sighed and said, Queen Ming Yin and Demon Lord Xie, you also won't sit by and watch this side grow stronger. Their arrival is only a matter of time. When the day comes, when the army comes, how are we going to resist? We are no longer ourselves. Even the evil dragons themselves may have evolved into humans. The Night Luan army and Demon Sky army may destroy everything here. Julie sighed and said, The elders also hope to unite all the forces that can be united and gather everyone together to search for energy to grow stronger so that we won't be wiped out in the future. So I've told you more than once that my father admires you and is not your enemy. Ding Ming said, I admit that you have thought far ahead. However, this place is billions of light years away from the 6 domains. How can they arrive in such a short time? Julie's tone turned cold. You forgot about someone you killed, Ling Xingwen. Ding Ming was shocked. Ling Xingwen's change was actually a signal. The Miran Kingdom's attention had been on this side for a long time. Ding Ming once again understood why Julie did not participate in the battle for the temple's energy source. Perhaps she had already discovered traces of the Night Luan warriors. She and the Fifth Lord had been in hiding for many years and did not want to expose themselves so easily. Julie said, The evil dragons have not been exposed either. So far, we only know about the hidden front. However, who is the leader behind the hidden front? Where's their base? We know nothing about this. Ding Ming was silent for a long time. Then he said, In the end, everyone's goal is still the legendary Holy Temple. The Fifth Lord sighed. The Holy Temple is still too far away. Planet 32 is already at the edge of the fertile chalk galaxy's core. Is there really a resource of the demons hidden in the core? This is all unknown. The magic light formation has set up many wormholes. The underground palace we are in now is actually a branch of the energy source. This was all discovered more than 20 years ago. Ding Ming thought to himself that the energy source of the demon's forbidden land was probably even greater than that of the Holy Temple. Otherwise, the fertile chalk galaxy would not have caused such a huge commotion and attracted so much attention. In fact, Ding Ming had a vague feeling that the Fifth Lord and Julie's goal was not just to deal with the demons. They were also hiding a lot of information from him. However, he knew that the Fifth Lord would not tell him, such as the super warship. What do you need me to do? Ding Ming asked calmly. The Fifth Lord smiled. We don't need anything from you. The reason I'm telling you this is because I want you to have a clearer understanding of the current situation so that you can act better. Ding Ming would never believe such nonsense. If there was something that even the Black Handprint could not do, there must be something that the Fifth Lord wanted the 3 generals to do. It was just that he had intercepted them halfway. The Fifth Lord was definitely aiming for the demon's energy source and the Holy Temple of Entropy. These were his ultimate goals. Sure enough, Julie still spoke. Planet 32 is very lively now. The demon's forbidden land has also opened up many wormholes. The combined fleet is still unable to identify which one is the real entrance, and the leaders of the major forces are not on Planet 32. Ding Ming said, Wenyang, Zheng Fangying, and the others are not here. Julie said, yes. Ding Ming understood. He would have to investigate the whereabouts of these people on his own. Logically speaking, a treasure mountain was right in front of him, but the relevant people had all disappeared. This was definitely not normal. Can the demon's wormhole return the same way? Ding Ming asked. Julie said, of course. This place is the ruins of the demons. Although the mana has been used up, when you return, the 12 Constellations fleet can still restore the wormhole formation. No one will know that you were here. Ding Ming nodded. If he were to return the same way, he would definitely use this modified Songqing spaceship, and he could not expose his true identity. After thinking about it, he secretly used the assimilation mantra and turned himself into Biming. Biming was one of the Empire's star general, and using this identity would definitely be able to dig up many clues about the combined fleet. Chapter 1000. The combined fleet's main station was still brightly lit. Countless spaceships were still taking off and landing, creating a lively scene. Since the spaceport was built at the northernmost point of Planet 32, there was no day here. It was always night, but the various colors of the main station dispelled the haze of the night. After disembarking from Songqing's spaceship, Ding Ming did not go to the hotel. Instead, he went straight to the terminal. His thoughts were quite clear. Large spaceships could not enter the rainforest system, but the combined fleet was mainly composed of superfleets. Therefore, the main station would definitely know the specific coordinates of the fleet's headquarters. As long as he could sneak into the fleet's headquarters, he would not have to worry about not being able to find the whereabouts of Wen Yang and the others. In fact, what he was most interested in was why the new president of the Federation, Zheng Fengying, would agree to cooperate with the Empire. The terminal's control center was not like the other bases. There were many staff here, and the atmosphere was very tense. There were dozens of spaceships taking off and landing every minute. Of course, Ding Ming was able to enter without any hindrance. The patrolling soldiers along the way even took the initiative to raise their hands and salute him. Although Biming was not the commander in charge of the main station, he was still a general of the Empire. His military rank was there for all to see. The commander of the main station was another general from the Federation. His name was Cheng Ming. He was a two-star general and also a hale and hearty old man. It was obvious that the combined fleet was not as united as it appeared on the surface. No matter where in the rainforest system, the Federal Empire's forces were all equal and restrained each other. As soon as he saw Ding Ming enter the control center, Cheng Ming spoke from the main control panel. "General of the North, you came at the right time. There's just an order from the headquarters. The Secret Service patrol team has captured a group of trespassers in a nearby star system. They will pass by the main station in half an hour. They hope that we can send them to Planet 1. This order was sent by the Federation military. Now that the air traffic is busy, do you want to go, or should I?" In his impression, Biming would definitely refuse. Ever since he had been stationed on Planet 32, he had a bad impression of this general of the Empire. This man was too sinister and lustful. Unless it was an order from the upper echelons of the Empire, he would not move. However, to his surprise, Ding Ming answered without even thinking, "I'll go." Watching Ding Ming stride away, Cheng Ming felt very strange. Why did this guy suddenly change his temperament? A subordinate immediately echoed, "Yeah, I didn't see him with that female major. It's really strange." It wasn't easy to climb to the position of general. Cheng Ming calmly ordered, "Inform Zhu Lang to go with us. If he finds anything amiss during the escort, report back immediately." The spaceship escorting the intruders was also a Songqing. After the connecting cabin was opened, a group of armored soldiers immediately lined up. Just by looking at this situation, it was obvious that this so-called special task force was definitely the Empire's men. To Ding Ming's surprise, the person who walked out of the connecting cabin was a young man. At least, he looked young, but the aura on his body was quite sharp. He was actually a Lightspeed type war god. However, the young man was not wearing a military uniform, and there was no sign of the Empire on him either. His clothes were a little retro, just a simple jacket and trousers, and he was not carrying any weapons. "Hello, General of the North. I'm here to report under orders." The young man was the first to speak, but his tone was very impatient. Ding Ming did not answer. He only frowned slightly. The young man laughed disdainfully, then raised his wristband. Wristband communications could not be used in the rainforest, so what was shown was an identification. Ding Ming took a closer look and saw that it was the crystalline symbol of Chuangyu. The young man's name was Long Yen. Could this person be related to Guan Wuming's group? However, Guan Wuming had long been eliminated by Ling Xingwen. This long, Yin was definitely on Guan Wuming's side. "Hello," a rough male voice rang out behind him. Ding Ming turned around and saw a handsome man wearing the uniform of the Holy Grail Federation walking over. Long Yin laughed again, this time very contemptuously. "So, it's Colonel Zhu," Zhu Lang said calmly, "General of the North. Old General Chung asked me to come and help." Long Yin said, "General Chung is very considerate. Actually, I alone am enough to escort them. There's no need to trouble the main station." This guy's attitude was quite arrogant. What he meant was that he was stronger than them, and they would be a burden if they came to help. Zhu Lang completely ignored his attitude. "We still have to go through the routine inspection procedures. Long Xiao, please understand." Long Yin could not argue with this kind of excuse. He waved his hand. "Time is of the essence. This matter cannot be delayed. Please board the ship. We'll talk as we go." After entering the connecting cabin, the ship lifted off again and flew rapidly towards the outer periphery of planet number 1. The so-called trespassers were locked up in a training room. Songqing was a scout ship, so there was no prison room. They could only lock people in the training room in the resting cabin. When Long Yin led everyone in, Ding Meng's heart sank. What he was afraid of had really happened. There were a total of 5 people locked up in the large training room. 2 of them were humans, while the others were a member of the Steel Mane race, a person from the Devouring Realm, and a member of the Frog race. Ding Meng recognized all 5 of them. The first human was a white-haired old man. His lips were purple, and his entire body was white and swollen due to excessive blood loss. His joints creaked like dry wood. This person was actually Zhong Yu from the Gauss. However, Ding Meng could see that Zhong Yu had been completely crippled. There was not even a trace of origin energy in his body. Of the 5 people, he was the most seriously injured. The second human was an elephant. The elephant's hair was unkempt and his face was dirty. He wasn't that badly injured, but a lot of origin energy had been injected into his body. His limbs were bound by alloy steel bands, and he was curled up on the ground, unable to move. However, when the elephant saw Bai Ming's appearance, his eyes immediately spat fire. The third person from the Steel Mane race was Zhan Feng. Zhan Feng's right hand had been chopped off from his shoulder. The Steel Mane race's royal guard was skilled with swords and sabers. Once he lost his right hand, he basically had no combat ability left. The fourth person from the Devouring Realm was Shuiyu Mountain, whose entire body was covered in pus. It was really a mystery how he had been captured. The fifth person from the Frog race was the young general by Leighton's side. He had previously been against Ding Meng, but he had been taught a lesson by Ding Meng. Long Yin was already explaining, "These 5 people were captured by me on the surface of Planet 32 and the nearby star systems. Their identities are unknown, and they are still stubbornly resisting. However, they're all rookie trash." Ding Meng was even more surprised. It seemed that this Long Yin wasn't weak. At the very least, the fact that he could deal with Zhong Yu was a clear indication of his strength. Zhu Lang said in a low voice, "Did Long Xiao manage to get any valuable information out of them?" Long Yin snorted coldly. "Heh, these pieces of trash are quite stubborn. They refuse to talk no matter what, but they do have some backbone. Bring them to Planet 1 and have experts in this field come and interrogate them. When the time comes, no one will refuse to talk." As he spoke, he kicked Zhong Yu. Zhong Yu fell to the ground, unconscious. Ding Meng thought to himself that the elephant wasn't too bad. He wasn't the strongest in this group, so he didn't suffer much. He was probably subdued by Long Yin in an instant. Strictly speaking, the elephant was a battle master with a rigid system, so he was definitely at a disadvantage when facing a light-speed expert. Ding Meng suddenly spoke up. "I want to interrogate these people alone. General of the North, what is the meaning of this?" Long Yin stared at him like a tiger watching its prey. Ding Meng's expression didn't change. "Nothing else. It's my duty. I just want to ask them a routine question. I have the right and obligation to do so." He was taking a risk. All military operations required authorization. No matter how much of a general he was, he couldn't act recklessly without the permission of the headquarters. Long Yin sneered. "General of the North, if I remember correctly, You're a star general newly promoted by the head of state, right? Ding Meng raised an eyebrow. What? Long Xiao, do you have a problem with that? No, no, no. Long Yin hurriedly waved his hand. Haha, professional matters should be left to the professionals. I'm just worried that the general isn't very professional when it comes to interrogations. What if you end up killing them? Ding Meng said calmly. Then you won't be able to kill them. Long Yin almost choked to death upon hearing this. What kind of answer was that? Ding Meng waved his hand. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. I won't delay the important matters. Long Yin looked at him suspiciously. Then he beckoned his subordinates. Let's go. The group left the training room one after another. Before they left, Long Yin muttered something under his breath, but Ding Meng still heard it. Umph, how pretentious. At this moment, only Zhu Lang was left in the training room. General of the North, it's a little against the rules for us to interrogate them in private. Ding Meng snorted coldly. Then is he following the rules? Since when can the Chuang use private armed forces arrest anyone within the combined fleet's control area, and even get orders from headquarters? Since when can the conglomerates be above the military? Zhu Lang said. Long Yin is one of the Chuang Yu's bodyguards. This meant that Long Yin was Guan Xinqing's subordinate. In the current situation, even though the combined fleet was showing off in the fertile chalk star system, each fleet was actually supported by a corresponding large financial group. Without the support of these financial groups, no matter how big the fleet was, it was just an empty shell. Large-scale military operations were impressive, but in the end, they were still burning money. The expansion of the combined fleet in the fertile chalk star system was a competition for the power of capital. But how could a bodyguard be so arrogant and despotic? Then, as the boss behind the Bingyi group, wouldn't I be able to cover the sky with one hand? Of course, Ding Meng could not say this out loud. He just waved his hand casually. Zhu Lang only felt his vision go black, and he fell to the ground weakly. The Terminator's spell was a little rough, but it was child's play to seal the consciousness of a battlelord. When they saw Zhu Lang fall to the ground, the few people lying on the ground all looked surprised. It's me, Ding Meng said in a low voice. At the same time, he released his telekinesis to block the surveillance cameras on the walls. At this moment, the elephant felt a pure divine light energy enter its body. Its origin body immediately turned into ashes, and the alloy steel bands on its limbs automatically broke. When it raised its head again, the elephant could not help but be overjoyed. Brother Ding. The others also received different degrees of treatment from Ding Meng. When they saw Ding Meng reveal his true form, the Shuiyu Mountain also jumped up excitedly. Ding Meng, so it's you. I thought we were done for. Now, we're saved. Ding Meng said, what happened? Why were you captured alive? Don't worry, tell me slowly. Chapter 1001. Things were actually quite simple. After Ding Meng left Heavenly Silkworm Planet, Raiden had organized many small teams to infiltrate the fertile chalk system. However, these small teams were not as lucky as Ding Meng. They did not receive help from the mother body, but instead used reconnaissance ships to fly quietly. This team was led by Zhong Yu, but unfortunately, they were targeted as soon as they landed on Planet 32. The worst thing was that the elephant happened to be nearby. However, Ding Meng now knew that the Divine Arrow spaceship had already left through a space jump. The elephant did not leave because it was waiting for Ding Meng. This stupid guy insisted on waiting for Baiming's corpse before returning. Ding Meng's gaze fell on Shuiyu Mountain. Why are you involved? Zhong Yu quickly explained. The elder is very knowledgeable. He knows about the wormhole technique of the demons, so sect leader Lung asked him to come with us. Ding Meng was curious. You know about the magic light array? Shuiyu Mountain's expression was serious. Ding Meng, look at Planet 32. There are spaceships everywhere, but none of the big shots of the combined fleet have shown up. Do you know why? Ding Meng smiled. Could it be that you know about it, Elder Chung? Shuiyu Mountain said, the master knows about it. Strictly speaking, the Dark Knight Demoness was also a branch of the demons, so it was not surprising that she knew some techniques. What do you mean? Ding Meng was interested. Shuiyu Mountain lowered his voice. Don't be fooled by the wormholes in the sky. They're all fake. Once you enter, you will be trapped in the array. Without the key, you will not be able to open it. Ding-Ming was surprised. Oh, what kind of key? Shui Mountain said, I don't know what kind of key it is, but if we gather all of them, we can find another way. Zhongyu panted. Our boss has received news that the combined fleet has found all the tools to open the forbidden array. There must be a reason why the combined fleet hasn't made a move yet. Other than the fact that large units can't fly in, I boldly guess that they want to move in secret. They don't want to alert the outside world. The rainforest is now the eyes and ears of all the major organizations all over the world. His conjecture coincided with Ding-Ming's thoughts. It was impossible for the joint fleet to set up their headquarters or command center on a starship, because everyone knew that starships could not enter the depths of the rainforest unless they learned from Ling Xingqi's grand plan on Poison Dragon Planet and used a curved mirror to transmit large units accurately. However, the cost was too high. Before they saw any results, it was not worth it. The only possibility was that the higher-ups wanted to gather their elite forces for a secret operation, and the operation had to avoid the eyes of most people. Ding-Ming couldn't help but ask, You suspect that the combined fleet's elite forces are gathering somewhere? Zhongyu smiled bitterly. Boss told me to move in the opposite direction from the periphery of Star Spiral. I didn't expect to run into this long brat. Ding-Ming looked at him. You guys are really brave. The rainforest is full of the combined fleet's forces. It's good enough that you guys can sneak in. How dare you run around? He then looked at Shuiyu Mountain, Zhan Feng, and the young general. The three of you are from different countries. If I were that long, I would have killed you. Do you guys really think you're something? Shuiyu Mountain, Zhan Feng, and Zhan Feng felt a little ashamed. One was a royal guard of the Steelmane race. One was an elder of the Devourer race. And one was a young general of the Frogman race. They all seemed to be of high status. However, this was a place where the strongest people from all over the world gathered. Did they really think they could do whatever they wanted? Especially on Planet 32, there were battle saints and battle lords everywhere. Sigh. Ding-Ming sighed. He didn't care about Zhongyu and the young general, but he couldn't abandon Elephant, Zhan Feng, and Shuiyu Mountain. They were his people. You guys just pretend to be trapped and ignore that long. He has his reasons for not killing you. We'll follow the ship to Planet 1 and see what he's up to. Ding-Ming made up his mind. Everyone could only nod and agree. In this situation, they could only listen to Ding-Ming. Ding-Ming decided to go to Planet 1 because he had been there before. The Heavenly Dragon Unit's base and the Fifth Lord's former manor were both on Planet 1. Moreover, the Rat King of the Mole race was also underground on Planet 1. When the time came, he could ask the Rat King to take care of the injured. Planet 1 was always cold and windy all year round. When the Songqing spaceship landed, Ding-Ming took a look at the control panel. As expected, Long Yin was going to land on the helipad on the cliff. The helipad was indeed filled with ships of all sizes, but none of them had the logo of the Federal Empire. If he hadn't met the Fifth Lord before, Ding-Ming would have suspected that he had returned to the Black Handprint's original headquarters. To the south of the helipad was the familiar abyss. The cable bridge above the abyss had now been modified into a steel bridge. After crossing it, they would arrive at the manor in the cold fog. When Elephant and the others were escorted in, Ding-Ming had already scanned the place with his telekinesis vision. The hall on the first floor was the same as before. The room was less than 500 square meters and was densely covered with screens of all sizes. All the control panels were operating in an orderly manner. However, it was no longer the Black Handprint's control system. Instead, it had been changed to the Empire's military's control panel. There were quite a lot of people in the hall. Most of them were staff members. A middle-aged man in a suit was sitting on the command chair. He also had the aura of a warlord. It seemed like he was the person in charge here. Long Yin swaggered in. The middle-aged man's eyebrows revealed a hint of disgust. He was obviously dissatisfied with Long Yan's usual arrogant and despotic behavior. Lao Zhang, I brought them here, Long Yin said casually. Zhang Feng glanced at Elephant and the others. He was slightly surprised. Why are there 3 more monsters? Long Yan's attitude was indifferent. Then you could just kill them. Zhang Feng also noticed that Ding Ming and Zhu Lang were following behind the group. General of the North, Senior Colonel Zhu, thank you for your hard work. Long Yan said, Officers, we've escorted them here. You should go back now. Forgive me for not sending you off. Zhu Lang's attitude was very humble. Chief Zhang, I'll have to trouble you to arrange a ship. Before Zhang Feng could answer, Long Yan spoke first. The orders from the higher-ups were only for you to escort them. They didn't ask us to arrange a ship for you. Zhu Lang couldn't hold it in anymore. Without a ship, how are we going to go back? Long Yan shrugged. That's your problem. It has nothing to do with me. Long Yan, you're going too far. Zhu Lang's eyes were spitting fire. I'm an officer of the Federation. Long Yan laughed. So what? Do you think the officers of the Federation can command the citizens of our empire? Zhang Feng also felt that Long Yan had gone too far. He took the initiative and said, Officers, please take a rest. I'll arrange the ship. Ding Ming suddenly smiled. No need. Zhang Feng was stunned. What did he mean? Ding Ming smiled strangely. I don't have any military business anyway. I can stay and watch Long Xiao's professional interrogation. Long Yan also felt that something was wrong. He stared at Ding Ming. General of the North, I suggest you go back. Ding Ming smiled happily. I don't want your suggestion. I want my suggestion. I suggest I watch. You. Long Yan's eyes flashed fiercely. General of the North, you should know your place. You're just a newly promoted star general. Ding Ming smiled. What? In the Norse Empire, my status as a general can't compare to a little bodyguard like you? Long Yan's expression became completely cold. I can speak on behalf of Chuanyu. Lao Zhang can speak on behalf of Apocalypse Group. Who can you speak on behalf of? Don't tell me you can speak on behalf of the head of state. Ding Ming's heart skipped a beat. Didn't Apocalypse Group and Chuanyu support Wenyang? This place looked a bit like a branch of the two groups. Both groups were overseen by two warlords. There must be something going on here. Seeing that Ding Ming was deep in thought, Long Yan couldn't help but laugh. It's good that you admit defeat. Hurry up and get out of here. Don't be a hindrance. Ding Ming wasn't angry. Instead, he laughed. You're ridiculously arrogant. You don't have much strength, but you're quite arrogant. Long Yan said proudly. What? You don't like it? Ding Ming smiled. I only have one thing to say now. I'm not leaving today. Let's see what you can do to me. You. Long Yan's aura suddenly increased by a lot. His eyebrows were raised. Do you have the guts to repeat what you just said? Ding Ming said, I'm not a repeater. It's fine if you don't understand human language. I don't blame you. Long Yan took a deep breath and looked around. Lao Zhang, I'll give you face and not fight here. Bei, get out here if you have the guts. I'll personally send you off today. After saying that, he turned around and walked towards the courtyard outside. Seeing that things were about to get out of hand, Zhang Feng panicked. He quickly tried to calm him down. General of the North, you're also a general of the Empire. Don't let your emotions affect your decisions. Boss and the others will be here soon. We can't have internal strife. Ding Ming looked at him deeply. Good attitude. You save your own life. After saying that, he turned around and walked outside. Zhang Feng was stunned. What do you mean by that? He sounded even more arrogant than Long Yan. The courtyard was still the same as before. A few big trees formed a circle, and the area was at least a few hundred square meters. Long Yan stood in the center and was already rubbing his hands. Bei, I'll let you understand something today. It doesn't matter if you're a general or something else. When you see people from Chuanyu, you'll have to be polite. Ding Ming laughed disdainfully. I'm impressed by your willpower. Long Yan took another deep breath. To be honest, he really didn't care about people like Baiming. You're just a heat battle saint. You're not even on the same level as me. Where did you get the confidence to challenge me? I can kill you with one punch. Long Yan's figure was a little blurry. In the next moment, he was in front of Ding Ming and punched Ding Ming in the face. He was a light-speed assassin. Not only was he fast, but his punches were also very accurate. He didn't hit anywhere else but Ding Ming's lips. The reason was simple. I want you to shut up. Unfortunately, when the punch arrived, Ding Ming was no longer there. Chapter 1002. Long Yan's fist hit air, but the air also shattered with a bang. Even a battle saint's strength was enough to shatter mountains and tear apart the air. When Long Yin turned his head to look, he saw that Ding Ming had actually floated to where he had been standing. Long Yin was immediately amused. "Ah, I didn't even use my full strength, and you're already using your full strength. Are you that afraid of death? How did you become a general?" For what he understood, Bai Ming, a battle saint, had to use all of his origin energy to dodge his casual attack. Who knew that Ding Ming would wave his hand and say, "I'm still fine. Your speed isn't good enough." Long Yan's expression sank. His entire body flashed once again as he threw out another punch. This time, his speed was much faster than before. Zhang Feng, who was standing at the door, almost couldn't keep up with his eyes. Bang! The air seemed to solidify as Ding Ming's palm firmly caught this punch. I'm still fine. My speed is good, but my strength is a bit lacking. It looks like you haven't eaten much, Ding Ming said with a laugh. Long Yin was a bit shocked. This Bai Ming had actually been hiding his strength. It turned out that this guy had already broken through to the battle god level. Long Yin quickly retreated to his original position and carefully sized up Ding Ming. Ding Ming clearly didn't have any aura on his body, so how could he possibly catch his fist? "Okay, you asked for it." Long Yin gritted his teeth and immediately disappeared. This time, it wasn't a flash or a transient step. He was truly invisible. Ding Ming was still laughing. "Your tricks are just for show in front of true strength." After saying this, Ding Ming's left hand casually grabbed Long Yan's ankle from below his right rib. It turned out that Long Yan had circled behind him and tried to kick him. Long Yan did not panic when his foot was caught. With a clang, a sharp blade shot out from the tip of his foot and pierced towards Ding Ming's left wrist. This was a standard sneak attack technique used by assassins. Tisk, the sound of the sharp blade piercing into flesh could be heard clearly in the courtyard. However, it was not Ding Ming's wrist that was torn apart, but the sharp blade itself. It was like a piece of steel hitting a furnace, instantly turning into fiery red, molten steel. Then it turned into a puff of green smoke and disappeared. There was still a faint smell of sandalwood lingering in the air. It seemed that the sharp blade was made of good material. However, no matter how good it was, in front of absolute heat, all weapons were nothing. Ding Ming grabbed Long Yan's ankle and threw him out. Long Yan still had some skills. He somersaulted in the air and split into 3 doppelgangers, then flashed back. For identical Long, Yan attacked from 4 different directions. Not only was it impossible to tell that the doppelgangers were fake, but the wrist blades on the back of their hands were also shining brightly. This was a martial art that could kill people. Thud! It sounded like a single sound, but it was actually 4 because the wrist blades pierced Ding Ming's forehead, heart, lower rib, and back at almost the same time. However, Ding Ming did not fall down because the 4 wrist blades had the same result. They were instantly melted into molten steel and turned into smoke. Even if they were not melted, such weapons could not even leave a mark on Ding Ming's skin. The current Ding Ming was just that powerful. Long Yin recalled his doppelgangers and somersaulted back to his original position. At this moment, even if he had no foresight, he could tell that Bai Ming's strength was definitely not below his own. At this moment, Long Yin quickly circulated his origin energy, pushing his origin energy to the limit. He was ready to go all out. However, Ding Ming waved his hand and laughed. "It's useless. I gave you 4 chances. It's not that you can't take them, but that you're too weak. You don't even have the qualifications to take them." Ding Ming seemed to be standing still, but Long Yin suddenly felt an excruciating pain in his left shoulder. This excruciating pain almost made him cry. His entire left arm hung down because his shoulder blade was shattered and his left arm was broken. Moreover, he could not even see Ding Ming's movements. This was the legendary Fight the Landlord game of blowing up a single card. This was not a contest of strength at all. He had thought that Bai Ming was not on the same level as him. But who would have thought that the truth was that he was not on the same level as Bai Ming? There might even be a gap of several levels between them. The murderous glint in Long Yan's eyes disappeared and was replaced by fear. Swish, swish, swish. 3 soft sounds rang out in succession. The injured Long Yin flashed a few times in succession and arrived at the steel bridge in the blink of an eye. It was obvious that he wanted to escape, and his speed was not bad. However, no matter how fast you were, could you be faster than someone else's line of sight? Ding Ming's eyes trembled. Large amounts of star-charged particles were released from his brain, and an electric net appeared in the middle of the steel bridge. This was the Galaxy Codex's electromagnetic-type psychic technique, Void Electric Wall. This was only a beginner psychic technique, but its power was not to be underestimated. Even Zhang Feng, who was far away at the gate, felt his scalp go numb. Many people had experienced this feeling when faced with a strong electric current. Although the high-voltage electric current did not touch you, your hair would instantly stand on end. For a war god to be able to feel this from such a distance, one could imagine how terrifying this electric wall was. Long Yin naturally felt it even more deeply. His entire body drew an arc across the bridge, bypassing the electric wall and continuing to charge forward. However, in the next second, 3 electric walls appeared in front of him, completely sealing off his path. F***CK. Long Yin did not even dare to look back. His gaze landed on the steel cables on the bridge. Who knew that, just as he looked, electric walls would appear on the steel cables as well? His gaze landed on the steel plate on the ground. 5 electric walls appeared one after another on the bridge. Now, with just a thought, wherever his gaze landed, a pile of electric walls would appear as if they were magic. In less than 5 seconds, there were electric walls in a 180-degree radius in front of him. There were at least 70 to 80 of them densely packed together. Even a fly would not be able to escape, let alone him. Long Yin slowly turned around. Naturally, there were no electric walls behind him. He looked at Ding Ming with a dark expression and said, "The General of the North is also a general personally appointed by the Chancellor. Isn't this joke a bit too much?" Ding Ming said calmly, "I don't think you were joking when you attacked just now." Zhang Feng said decisively, all right. We'll stop when we're done. Everyone can rest now." Ding Ming glanced at him and said, "Who told you that I'm going to stop? I haven't even started." Zhang Feng was stunned. He really did not know if Ding Ming was being arrogant, or was Ding Ming being stubborn to the end. "I'll fight it out with you today." Long Yin stepped forward and flew over. This time he showed his trump card. Because his entire body was wrapped in a black fog, Zhang Feng could not see this change. However, Ding Ming could see it clearly. A Devil Sky martial artist? Ding Ming was also a little surprised. Then, his face darkened, and he said, "You're here to die." Ding Ming finally moved. It was the iconic carp leaping over the Dragon Gate. How fast was this blade? In Zhang Feng's vision, Ding Ming's entire body was like a beam of light that had been stretched and distorted. In Ding Ming's vision, the raised hand knife did not cut his opponent immediately. Instead, his elbow arrived first. This elbow directly shook away Long Yan's palms, and then the hand knife chopped down on Long Yan's right shoulder. Crack! Long Yan's arms were now broken, and he fell to the ground with a plop. Ding Ming looked down at him with a faint smile and said, "Where's your arrogance from before? Where did it go?" Long Yan's eyes were filled with resentment. "Boss and the others will be here soon. Let's see how long you can be arrogant." Ding Ming squatted down in front of him and said, "Since you mentioned this, I have to tell you that I'm a professional when it comes to interrogations." Long Yin felt a shadow in his heart. "What do you want?" Ding Ming said, "Who will be here soon? Who exactly?" Long Yin seemed to realize something and shouted, "You're not Biming. You're definitely not. Who exactly are you?" "Ha!" Ding Ming grabbed his throat and said, "I don't want to ask a second time." Long Yin finally understood how powerful his opponent was. His opponent's palm was like a black hole with endless suction. The origin, power, and magic energy in his body were crazily leaking out like a flood breaking through a dam. Soon, the origin point in his heart was completely extinguished. His body became weak, and he felt extremely uncomfortable. This was the diamond star-fusing art forcibly melting people. With Ding Ming's current interstellar martial supremacy strength, Melting a war god was like boiling water. Are you crazy? Long Yan's eyes widened, and he could not help but roar. How dare you destroy my origin points? You're really in trouble. Ding Ming was expressionless. This is the last time. Are you going to talk or not? Long Yan said angrily, I'm talking to your mother. I was personally sent here by the big boss. How dare you touch me? You're really tired of living. Ding Ming did not ask any more questions. He exerted some force in his palm, and 3 origin points in Long Yan's heart were extinguished. Mother asterisk cur. Long Yan cursed. If you dare to attack me, you'll be making an enemy out of Chuang Yu and Apocalypse. The princeps and the others won't let you go. Why aren't you F** king letting go? Are you really crazy? Ding Ming nodded. You can disappear now. Long Yan's pupils suddenly shrank because he saw a large amount of white light. Ding Ming's palm spewed out a huge white torrent with a boom. Long Yan was directly turned into nothingness. The consequence of encountering an interstellar warrior was not to mention dying without a complete corpse. Even if you wanted to turn into smoke, it would be impossible. You would die cleanly without leaving any trace behind. You talk too much. After saying this, Ding Ming slowly got up and walked toward the hall on the first floor. Zhang Feng was already numb from watching. To be precise, he had never seen someone with such terrifying strength. Killing a god of war was as easy as squashing a bug. At this moment, in his eyes, Bai Ming's image no longer existed. The one who was slowly walking toward him was a real Grim Reaper. Many thoughts suddenly flashed through his mind. Immediately fight, kneel down and beg for mercy, or enter the house and activate the alarm. But no matter which one it was, it didn't seem like a wise choice. His legs couldn't even move. This feeling was extremely uncomfortable. Of course, he didn't know that he was already scared out of his wits. You killed him? After a long time, Zhang Feng finally managed to squeeze out this sentence. Who said he's dead? Ding Ming was still walking, but with every step he took, his image was changing. After a few seconds, not only did his appearance become exactly the same as Long Yan's, but his aura was also that of an intermediate-level god of war. It was exactly the same. If Zhang Feng was scared out of his wits before, he was now completely dumbfounded. An immense sense of fear that he had never felt before engulfed him. Chapter 1003. Look, aren't I perfectly fine? Ding Ming said casually. Zhang Feng was speechless. He really did not know how to answer. Zhu Lang, who was behind him, was the same. They were completely stunned by the scene in front of them. Everyone knew one thing. The person in front of them was definitely not Bai Ming and definitely not Long Yan. Zhu Lang still had a bit of rationality left. He asked carefully, If I may ask, Senior, who are you? Ding Ming said meaningfully, I am Long Yan, and Long Yan is me. Do you understand? Zhang Feng and Zhu Lang's hands and feet turned cold. They clearly understood that Ding Ming was going to pretend to be Long Yan. Ding Ming stared at Zhang Feng. Who will be coming here later? You can choose not to say. Zhang Feng was really uncomfortable being stared at by him. After a huge psychological struggle, his rationality still prevailed. His strength was on par with Long Yan's. He had seen with his own eyes what happened to Long Yan. Even his spirit was not left behind. Now, only a fool would choose to go against him. The people who will be coming are Long Quan and Gu Cheng. Zhang Feng answered honestly. Ding Ming said, Who are these 2 people? Zhang Feng said, Long Quan is the security chief of Chuang Yu. Gu Cheng is a vice president of Apocalypse Group. Ding Ming said, What are they doing here? They are tracking down Gauss's boss in the rainforest, but they could not find him. Now, there is news that Gauss's boss has a magic origin stone. The magic origin stone is one of the items to open the forbidden area. Gauss's Zhong Yu has also been captured. Zhang Feng tried to use the shortest words to describe the situation. Ding Ming nodded. Apocalypse and Chuang Yu are both direct subordinates of Wenyang. Why did you set up a separate branch here? Zhang Feng gritted his teeth as if he had made a great decision. The higher-ups do not want to share the secret of the forbidden area with the Federation. So, they secretly set up Apocalypse and Chuang Yu's private armed forces. This was completely within Ding Meng's expectations. He continued to ask, "Where is Chancellor Wenyang now?" Zhang Feng heaved a sigh of relief. "I don't know about that." Ding Meng nodded again. At Zhang Feng's level, that was probably all he knew. He patted Zhang Feng's shoulder. "Do you know that you are very lucky?" Zhang Feng was shocked by the pat. "Why?" Ding Meng smiled. "You are a smart person. You know the truth, and you're not a warrior of the demons. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to talk to me right now." Zhang Feng was relieved. "Thank you for your mercy, senior." Ding Meng turned to Zhu Lang. "Go and release the captives. Let them leave on the boat." Zhu Lang immediately looked hesitant. He wanted to say something several times, but in the end, he did not say anything. In the end, he steeled himself and went back into the cabin. Elephant and the others had already received instructions from Ding Meng. After they came out, they all walked towards the steel bridge and took this opportunity to leave as soon as possible. Before they left, Zhang Feng held his broken arm and bowed deeply to Ding Meng to express his deep gratitude. Ding Meng nodded. "Go back the way you came. Don't stop." It was not until everyone had left and 3 reconnaissance ships had taken off on the tarmac that Zhang Feng asked carefully, "Senior, do you have any other instructions?" Ding Meng said, "Do you know where the headquarters of the combined fleet is?" Zhang Feng looked troubled. "I'm sorry, but that's a top secret of the combined fleet. I really don't know." Ding Meng said, "Then do Long Quan and Gu Cheng know?" Zhang Feng felt a headache coming on. "I'm not sure. Do they know?" Ding Meng waved his hand and said, "That's enough. Go get me a chair." Zhang Feng was once again dumbfounded. The actions of these experts always left him scratching his head. What were they trying to do this time? Zhu Lang had brought the command chair out from inside. Ding Meng sat comfortably on it and said, "Wait, senior, who are we waiting for?" Zhu Lang was also puzzled. Ding Meng said proudly, "We're waiting for the people from the combined fleet headquarters to arrive. If Long Quan and Gu Cheng don't know, then you guys can ask the staff to send out a message saying that they died on Planet 1 and were killed by President Bai Xingfei." Hiss, Zhang Feng and Zhu Lang both sucked in a breath of cold air at the same time. This guy was really ruthless. Not only was he ruthless, but he was also full of confidence. But then again, with his unfathomable strength, he could kill whoever he wanted. This was the legendary do whatever you want. "I'm going to the combined fleet headquarters, but I won't ask for help. I'll ask someone to lead the way. If the person who comes can't lead the way, then I'll start killing until the person who can lead the way arrives." After figuring out Ding Meng's plan, Zhang Feng and Zhu Lang decided to go all out. The two of them sat down on the steps of the gate and waited. However, this was not a good feeling. Every second felt like a year, but Ding Meng was very patient. He sat on the chair and closed his eyes to rest, not at all worried that the two of them would suddenly enter the house to call for help. In fact, the two of them did not have the guts to do so. Against an expert of this level, let alone a sudden attack, even your breathing pattern could be grasped by the other party. This was like a warrior going up against a warlord. No matter how the warrior struggled, in the eyes of the warlord, all of the warrior's actions would be childish and ridiculous. It would be better to cooperate obediently. In the evening, Ding Meng suddenly opened his eyes. Zhang Feng and Zhu Lang also noticed that there were 2 bright spots in the sky. It was obvious that a spaceship was coming. Soon, 2 middle-aged men walked over from the helipad. One of them was handsome and dressed in a suit. At first glance, one could tell that he was an elite in the business world. However, his aura was not weak. This person was Gu Cheng. The other person was only wearing a black sports singlet. His strong muscles were exposed, and his face was unusually ferocious. This person had to be Long Quan. Of course, in the eyes of Long Quan and Gu Cheng, Ding Meng's current image was not Long Yin, but Zhong Yu. This scene was really strange because Zhong Yu was sitting leisurely on the big chair, while the high-ranking officers Zhu Lang and Zhang Feng were sitting on the ground beside him. Since when did captives become so high and mighty? This abnormal situation immediately put the two of them on guard. Gu Cheng cleared his throat and said, "Lao Zhang, what are you doing sitting there?" Zhang Feng suddenly became deaf. Not only did he not answer, he did not even raise his head. He was staring at the ground. It looked like there were billions of dollars on the ground. Long Quan also stopped at the bridgehead. "Why don't I see Long Yen?" "You can't see him," Ding Meng said calmly. Long Quan frowned. "What do you mean?" Ding Meng said, "He has something to do." "He's not here." "Then where is he?" Long Quan asked. Ding Meng said, "He's where he should be." Gu Cheng's eyes flashed with a cold light. "What do you mean by where he should be?" Ding Meng said, "For example, right now. I shouldn't be here, and you shouldn't be here either." Gu Cheng took a deep breath. "Mr. Zhong, this is not the first time we've met. I've always been polite to you. I just want to ask you one thing. Where's your boss? Where is he? As long as I know where he is, I won't make things difficult for you." Ding Meng asked in return, "Where is the headquarters of the combined fleet?" Long Chuan's face flashed with a hint of displeasure. "Zhongyu, you have to understand one thing. We're the ones asking you questions." Ding Meng said, "Are my questions not questions?" Long Chuan's face turned cold. "You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit." Ding Meng really didn't want to talk nonsense. "I'll ask you one more time. Where is the combined fleet headquarters?" Long Quan didn't want to bother with him. He turned his head and said, "Brother Gu, I'll give you the chance to loosen your muscles. This kind of shrimp isn't worth my time." Gu Cheng's face was also a little unhappy. "President Quan, it's not like you don't know that I rarely attack weak people." Long Quan nodded. "Well, I'll do it for you this time." Ding Meng suddenly laughed. "You guys are really modest." Long Quan snorted coldly. "I don't need to be modest in front of you. To be honest, there aren't many people in Gaos who are worthy of my attention. You're just a little famous. If I attack you, I'll be doing you a favor." Ding Meng laughed even more happily. "Have you guys ever thought about one thing? If the two of you work together, you won't stand a chance against me." Shameless boasting. Long Quan twisted his shoulders, and then his figure blurred. In the next moment, he was in front of Ding Meng. However, he didn't attack because he couldn't. Ding Meng's hand was already around his throat. As for how Ding Meng reached out, no one saw it clearly. "I advise you not to use your power. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. Answer my questions honestly, and I might spare your life." Ding Meng simply lifted Long Quan up. How could Long Quan listen to such words? The moment he was grabbed, he realized that he had underestimated his opponent. At this moment, he quickly circulated all the origin points in his body in an attempt to shake Ding Meng off. Ding Meng's diamond star-fusing art had been waiting for him. Not bad. A Wargid's hardness system. It's slightly stronger than Long Yan's, but only by a little. Ugh. Long Chuan's face quickly turned purple. He was shocked to find that the source energy he was using was being sucked away by his opponent. Shocked, Long Quan slashed out with his palm, but Ding Meng's hand blade was even faster. It cut through his wrist like lightning. With a muffled sound, Zhu Lang couldn't help but close his eyes. Ding Meng's methods were really cruel. Long Chuan's right hand had been cut off at the wrist. Ding Meng's hand blade was like an extremely hot, flaming knife, precise and sharp. The hand that fell to the ground was immediately charred black, but not a single drop of blood spurted out from the cut. Ding Meng let go again, and Long Quan immediately fell to the ground and let out a heart-wrenching howl. His howl could be heard all over the cliff. Anyone who heard it felt their hair stand on end. Only someone who was in extreme pain would make such a sound. Ding Meng looked at him disdainfully. "Do you still think you're flattering me?" At this moment, Gu Cheng was already dumbfounded. He finally understood why Zhang Feng and Zhu Lang were sitting there so obediently. The opponent's strength was simply invincible. He had cut down Long Quan with just one move. Ding Meng crooked her finger at him and said, "Don't you rarely attack people who are weak? Come, I'm not weak. Come at me." Gu Cheng instantly felt cold sweat seeping out of his forehead. He had really dug a hole for himself. Now, he had to bite the bullet. Gu Cheng forced a smile. "May I know which senior has come to visit our Apocalypse base? It's an honor." Ding Meng also remembered that Apocalypse had made a move on Planet 1 many years ago. It was not wrong to call a base. However, he didn't buy it. "Let me ask you, where is the headquarters of the combined fleet?" Chapter 1004. Hearing this question again, Gucheng also felt a headache coming on. Sorry, this is a top secret of the military. As a civilian of the Apocalypse group, I definitely don't know about it. He felt that his answer was watertight, but Ding Ming looked down at Long Quan, who was on the ground in pain. What about you? You don't know either? The people of Chuangyu and the people of the Apocalypse group had completely different styles. Long Quan cursed in pain. Bastard, how dare you break my right hand? Do you know who I am? Ding Ming turned to look at Zhang Feng. Tell your people to send a message that this person is dead. Zhang Feng stood up, trembling. Looking at his hesitant expression, it seemed that he still couldn't believe it. Ding Ming said in a low voice, "If I say he's dead, he's really dead." He suddenly waved his hand, and Long Quan immediately floated into the air uncontrollably. Many electric walls suddenly appeared in the air, and without giving Long Quan any chance to react, several electric webs immediately closed in. Pa pa pa. Electric sparks shot out in all directions in the air like fireworks. But the person in the middle of the fireworks had been cut into countless pieces and was charred by the electricity. After a while, the electric webs disappeared, and the black pieces of flesh scattered down the cliff. The air seemed to have frozen at this moment, and everyone's breathing seemed to have stopped as well. Previously, they thought that the electric walls were nothing much, but now, looking at it, they realized that even a warlord-level expert could be cut into pieces. What else could it not cut into pieces? Ding Ming said calmly, "Go and inform the people of Chuangyu to come here. If they're late, then I'm sorry, but this person's spiritual body won't be able to be saved." Zhang Feng immediately turned around and rushed into the hall on the first floor. Now, no one dared to question Ding Ming's words. Gucheng felt like his legs were filled with lead, and he couldn't move. He braced himself and said, "Senior, may I know your name?" Ding Ming said, "Call for help." Gucheng was at a loss. "Who?" Ding Ming said. "Who knows where the headquarters of the Federation is? You should go and ask him. Otherwise, you will have to go down and accompany him. I don't mind telling you that there are a lot of moles at the bottom of this cliff. You might not be able to keep your spiritual body." Gucheng nervously turned around, but Ding Ming said again, "Stop." Gucheng asked, "Senior, what are your orders?" Ding Ming pointed at the hall on the first floor and said, "Go there. You don't have a quantum integrated system on your ship." Gucheng's heart turned cold. What the F***CK is your perception range so far? Even the communication system on my spaceship was captured. After Gucheng also went in, Ding Ming said, "I find it strange. I don't think the upper echelons of the Federation know about this sub-base." How did Zheng Fengying agree to cooperate with the Empire? Zhu Lang hesitated and said, "We only know how to follow orders. Soldiers have little to do with politics." He was also trying to guess what Ding Ming was thinking. He was afraid that he would accidentally answer the wrong question and be killed in an instant. However, he had a feeling that this senior did not seem to have any intention of targeting the Federation. If he did, he would not have asked him to come here. Ding Ming said, "Are you General Cheng Ming's subordinate?" Zhu Lang bowed his head respectfully. "I've been following the old general for 30 years. Ding Ming nodded. "Yes, I've heard of old General Cheng. He's a good person." Zhu Lang breathed a sigh of relief. The old general was originally very opposed to the president's proposal, but since the president insisted on going his own way, there was nothing he could do. Ding Ming said, "I understand. I'll take care of these matters." Zhu Lang was speechless. If it were someone else saying this, he would have thought that he was sleepwalking. However, this senior in front of him was not an ordinary person. He did indeed have the strength to do so. The two of them chatted for a while more before Zhang Feng and Gucheng came out. Zhang Feng still looked well-behaved, but Gucheng had regained some of his previous vigor. Ding Ming smiled. "Looks like the reinforcements you called for are not to be trifled with." Gucheng hurriedly bowed his head. "I wouldn't dare. Compared to you, senior, I'm still far behind. I just don't know your name." Although he said that, the arrogance in his eyes could not be concealed. "If you have the guts, then wait here. The people who will come later will not be ordinary people. You have to pay the price for showing off." This time, they did not have to wait for long because night had fallen. Straight lines of light appeared in the night sky. These lines of light formed a square pattern, and then space was opened. Dozens of densely packed stars appeared. It was obvious that the people who came this time had used short-range space transmission to send the spaceship directly to the sky above planet number 1 to save time. Not long after, a large group of people surged onto the steel bridge. Ding Meng could tell at a glance that they were all people from the Apocalypse group. Because they were all dressed exactly like Gu Cheng, they all looked like business elites. Gu Cheng's eyes also showed a hint of joy. The leader was also a handsome middle-aged man. As soon as he stepped onto the bridge, he did not show off and took the initiative to salute. Your humble servant is Tam Long, the CEO of Apocalypse Group. I'm here to pay a visit to you, Senior. His attitude was still considered polite, so Ding Meng said lightly, Okay, sit down. Sit. Tan Long was a little stunned. This place was full of bare stone slabs, and there was not even a chair. Where to sit? Ding Meng seemed to see his embarrassment. Just sit on the ground. Looking at his understatement, letting you sit on the ground was the greatest respect he could give you. Someone behind Tan Long could not help but say, I just called you Senior. Do you really think you're that big of a deal? Ding Meng glanced at the person. The person was wearing sunglasses and looked a little young. Ding Meng could not help but laugh. Do you think that having more people means more power? The young man was stunned. There were a total of 19 people in their group, and naturally, Tan Long was the strongest. 8 of them were already intermediate war gods, and although the remaining 11 had not broken through to the war god level, they were all advanced war saints. This was a very strong group of people from Apocalypse. If Gu Cheng did not say that Long Quan had been insta-killed, they would not have been alerted to come here. His thinking was not wrong. I don't care who you are. You can insta-kill Long Quan, but you can't insta-kill such a large group of people, right? Our combined strength should be enough to deal with any situation. However, he did not know that the moment they got off the spaceship, Ding Meng had seen through them. Even if there were 10 teams of people like this, Ding Meng would not care about them, let alone one team. Ding Meng asked them to sit down purely because Tan Long was polite. He was not as arrogant as Long Yin and Long Quan. Ding Meng's attitude had always been like this. If you were polite to me, I would be polite to you. If you were arrogant in front of me, I would let you use your body to write the word death. The young man looked like he wanted to refute, but he was stopped by Tan Long in time. Tan Long actually admitted defeat. He led the group to sit beside a big tree beside the steel bridge and said, I still haven't asked for Senior's name. Ding Meng said calmly, If your boss is here, he should know who I am. What he meant was that they did not have the right to ask about him. The group of people immediately looked unhappy. However, Tan Long was the CEO after all. He was able to keep his composure and did not show any change in his expression. 5 minutes later, another 2 groups of people appeared on the steel bridge. One of them was completely dressed in black men's gym clothes. Every single one of them was burly and had a repulsive appearance. Quite a few of them were wearing metal-powered boxing gloves. There were about 10 people in this group, and, as a whole, they gave off an aggressive and fierce aura. It felt like they were a group of fiendish bandits. After careful observation, one could tell that not a single one of them was an expert below the war god level. Apocalypse's people immediately stopped complaining. It seemed like they did not even need to do anything. This group of people could take care of the other party. Ding Meng could not help but look at this group of people. This was clearly the power of Chuang Yu. 5 of them even had mana auras. The leader was a big bald head. He was as strong as an iron tower. He said in a low, muffled voice, Did you kill Brother Long Quan? Ding Meng said, Do you want to accompany them? The bald head looked at Ding Meng meaningfully. He did not argue with him. Instead, he turned his head and whispered something. Soon, 5 people climbed down the cliff. It was obvious that they were going to retrieve Long Chuan's spirit body. At this time, the last group of people finally arrived. This group of people was the Federation's official army. Zhu Lang had already stood up, his back straight. Other than the 40 to 50 fully armed soldiers, there were 4 or 5 old men surrounding a young woman in a woman's suit. This woman was too eye-catching. She was the standard height of a beauty of the Federation. She had short blonde hair that reached her ears and wore a dark-colored bonnet. Her face was the most orthodox kind of oval-shaped face. Her beautiful face was like a character from an anime. It was as if this kind of beauty did not exist in the real world. The woman's suit was a standard black, standard long shirt and trousers. She wore a pair of high heels. Even through the thick clothes, one could feel that under the uniform was a flawless body. As soon as she stepped onto the steel bridge, the gloomy night seemed to be lit up. It was because she was too dazzling, especially that pair of bright red lips that glistened in the dark night. It was simply a fatal temptation. Tan Long, the bald head, Gu Chung, and Zhang Feng were all attracted to her. Even Ding Meng took a few more glances at her. How should one describe this beauty? You would think that she was pure and lovely, but she had a frosty expression. You would think that she had a capable spirit, but she had a dignified appearance. You would think that she was beautiful and sexy, but she did not show her chest or legs. You would think that she should be the charming type, but she showed a kind of cold beauty. In short, this woman was a complex mixture of many kinds of beauty and unique charm. Ding Meng had seen too many goddesses, and the one in front of him was on the same level as Ji and Xue. The aura of the goddess was indeed very strong. As soon as she walked to the bridge, all the masters around her were silent. The air was filled with an invisible primitive heat. It must be the physiological reaction of many animals, causing hormones to fill the air. The goddess scanned the crowd and finally fixed her eyes on the person in question. "Are you the one who killed people for no reason?" Her voice was quite pleasant to the ears, but she had accused Ding Meng of something the moment she arrived. Ding Meng could only ask back, "Who are you?" As soon as he said this, he regretted it. Almost all the men in the crowd turned to look at him. All their shocked eyes expressed the same thing. "Are you blind or an idiot? You can't even recognize her." It seems that you have a reason to anger the crowd. Chapter 1005. As expected, Ding Meng's rhetorical question angered the crowd. Although the goddess was still expressionless, everyone could feel that there was a hint of anger between her brows. Speaking of which, it was strange. Under normal circumstances, even if a beautiful woman was expressionless, the men around her would always be able to sense the change in her mood and try to curry favor with her. The bald head said decisively, "This person is definitely not Zhongyu from Gauss. Zhongyu does not have the ability to kill Long Quan and Long Yin from Chuangyu. General Liu, please uphold justice for the sake of the combined fleet." General Liu? Ding Meng suddenly realized who this woman was. She was Liu Xiaobing, the daughter of Liu Ting, and also the current acting vice president of the Holy Grail Federation. She was known as the second most beautiful woman in the Federation and was known as the goddess of 1,000 faces. No wonder there was such a big scene. Liu Xiaobing's face was dark as water. "I don't care who you are. Since you are here, you should understand that the Federal Empire is currently in a cooperative situation. The people of Apocalypse and Chuangyu are also members of our combined fleet. Since you killed people in the Wakeo system for no reason, you should be bound by the rules of the fleet. It is best that you voluntarily reveal your identity and cooperate with the investigation. Otherwise," Ding Meng immediately interrupted her. "Otherwise, we will solve the problem by force, right?" Liu Xiaobing's face had a hint of anger this time. "If you still have doubts about my words, then perhaps we will use the method you are most unwilling to accept to deal with you." Ding Meng's face also darkened. "Deal with me?" The bald head began to clamor again. "Does the vice president of the Federation have no right to deal with you?" Ding Meng suddenly smiled again. Zhang Feng, Gu Chung, and Zhu Lang were most afraid of Ding Meng's strange smile. Every time he smiled, something bad would happen. Liu Xiaobing said, "What are you laughing at? What's so funny about that?" Ding Meng said meaningfully, "You are only the acting president. You have not become the official president yet. Moreover, the person you should thank the most is me. If it were not for me, the Star Rainbow Group would not have let you go, and you would not have become the president." Liu Xiaobing didn't say anything this time. It was obvious that she was trying to guess Ding Meng's true identity. At this time, the 5 burly men who had climbed down the cliff climbed back onto the steel bridge and came to the bald head's side. They exchanged glances and secretly nodded. It seemed that Long Chuan's spirit had been caught. The bald man gently waved his hand in front of him. Immediately, 3 strong men stepped out from the ranks and stared at Ding Meng like tigers eyeing their prey. Ding Meng smiled again. "Vice President Liu, I want to ask you a question. Since when did the Great Holy Grail Federation collude with the warriors of the demons?" This question actually had a deeper meaning. The former president, Bai Xingfei, was a warrior of the divine light. With Bai Xingfei's position and character, it was impossible for him to collude with the demons. However, now that the higher-ups of the Federation and the Empire were working together, there was no doubt that they were colluding with the demons. Ding Meng didn't agree with this point. He mainly admired President Bai Xingfei's magnanimity. Moreover, at the temple, Bai Xingfei's death was too unjust. As a legitimate warrior of the divine light, he had to stand up and uphold justice. However, Liu Xiaobing didn't listen to his opinion at all. She replied coldly, "You don't have the right to ask me questions." Ding Meng nodded. "So you're letting these 3 good-for-nothings deal with me?" The bald head decisively ordered, "Kill." The 3 burly men flashed and surrounded Ding Meng almost instantly. 3 pairs of palms struck at Ding Meng's head, chest, and back. Because the courtyard was small, everyone controlled their strength precisely. The 3 pairs of palms looked like 6 light knives in the night sky. No one doubted their sharpness. However, from the beginning until now, Ding Meng had been sitting firmly in the commander's chair. The 3 pairs of palms had clearly hit him, but he was unharmed. Upon closer inspection, one would realize that the palms of the 3 men had frozen in the air less than 2 inches away from Ding Meng's body. It was as if there was an invisible barrier around Ding Meng's body, firmly stopping their attacks. After their first attack failed, the 3 men immediately retreated. Another person from Chuang Yu's team flew out. This time, 5 burly men attacked in midair at the same time. 5 ferocious-looking black dragons swam directly toward Ding Meng. However, they looked more like a terrifying curtain of demons trying to wrap Ding Meng up. Their momentum was quite shocking. A strong wind blew across the entire cliff. This wasn't just wind in the ordinary sense. It was infused with demon energy. It made one's heart palpitate and feel very uncomfortable. Black Dragon Wave? Ding Meng's expression changed slightly. Ever since when Yang and an ugly woman entered the temple, the demon's power had indeed increased greatly. It was usually difficult to see even one demon warrior, but today, 5 had appeared at once. At this moment, it was unrealistic for Ding Meng to sit still. He leaped into the air with pulling onions from the dry land, and the 5 black dragons missed their target. However, the 5 dragons instantly merged into one huge dragon and bit down from the top. Bang! Ding Meng opened one of his palms and allowed the black dragon to enter his body. In the past, he wouldn't have dared to do this. Demon energy had the miraculous effect of freezing the origin. However, now that he had AIG's techniques and the Astral Ocean Codex, absorbing this little bit of demon energy was child's play. However, when Ding Meng inhaled, the 3 burly men who had retreated suddenly descended from the sky. The 3 of them still surrounded him. First, 3 huge walls of holy brilliance formed a triangular pillar to trap Ding Meng. At the same time, 16 blazing sun battle tattoos, flashing a pale yellow light, pierced in from all directions. Boom! There was a loud explosion. A mass of colorful light in the sky exploded violently, like a circle of beautiful ripples spreading in the night sky. It gave people the impression that the blazing sun battle tattoos had ignited the black dragon wave. If one was caught in this kind of explosion, they would be seriously injured even if they didn't die. Sure enough, after the circle of light dispersed, Ding Meng disappeared. The bald head sneered. "You can't even withstand a single blow." Liu Xiaobing's expression also eased a little. The bald head walked over and said respectfully, "Thank you, General Liu, for upholding justice. It was clearly Chuang Yu's people who had attacked, but he still wanted to thank Liu Xiaobing. His flattery was too obvious. Many people in Apocalypse immediately regretted their actions. Why didn't they attack earlier? They could have left a good impression in front of their goddess. This was a common problem for men. If they managed to get a woman like Liu Xiaobing, they would have everything: fame, wealth, and beauty. Don't you think you're thanking me a little too early? Ding Ming's lazy voice rang out. Everyone was shocked. Only then did they realize that Ding Ming had returned to the commander's chair. He wasn't injured, and there weren't any marks on his clothes. Your aura clearly disappeared. The bald head wanted to say this, but he realized that Ding Ming hadn't emitted any aura from him since the beginning. Now, there was still no aura. There was only one possibility. Ding Ming's strength had exceeded the upper limit of his understanding. Ding Ming sat in his chair. Chuan Yu has some foundation. What's your name? The bald head's eyes flashed fiercely. He said fiercely, kneel down and beg me, and I'll tell you. Ding Ming laughed. Do you think I'm interested in you? Let me tell you, I asked casually because I think these good-for-nothings have some skill and teamwork. This was the truth. These people from Chuan Yu were obviously experienced in teamwork. Their teamwork was even better than the well-trained martial artists in the military. It made sense that Chuan Yu had been able to cultivate experts like Guan Wuming and the others in recent years. To be precise, these people were all members of the Long family. The bald head gestured again, and the 8 burly men surrounded Ding Ming again. Ding Ming sneered and said, I was being polite to you. You're really pushing your luck. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone saw that Ding Ming suddenly flashed and appeared in front of one of the burly men. Moreover, everyone could see Ding Ming's movements with their naked eyes. It was obvious that Ding Ming's speed wasn't fast, but the burly man couldn't stop him. Ding Ming's hand chopped down on the burly man's neck, and the man fell down like a pile of mud. Pop, 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 pop. This sounded like firecrackers. The 8 burly men all fell to the ground halfway. From the beginning to the end, Ding Ming had only used this move. Everyone saw it clearly, but no one was able to withstand it. Now, the 8 burly men on the ground were like 8 gunny sacks, falling heavily to the ground. Tianlong was still sitting on the ground silently. Originally, many people behind him were still unconvinced, but when they saw this scene, they all kept quiet out of fear. 8 warlord-level experts were defeated by such a primitive move. It didn't look like he was chopping people at all. It looked like he was chopping firewood. The people from Apocalypse couldn't help but admire Tianlong. Fortunately, Director Tan was experienced and calm. Otherwise, they would be the ones on the ground now. When Ding Ming made his move, the bald head was also stunned. This didn't make any sense. When did warlord-level experts become so weak that they couldn't even fight back? Liu Xiaobing raised her eyebrows and shouted, Stop. It's fine if you killed people before, but now you think the situation isn't serious enough? Do you want to continue hurting people? Hearing this, Ding Ming was too lazy to explain. He pulled back with one hand, and the 5 burly men who had used the Black Dragon Wave were immediately pulled up into the air. Ding Ming's other hand silently pushed out from under his ribs. A pure white and bright energy flow surged out, like the brilliant Milky Way in the night sky. Wherever the Milky Way passed, the darkness and haze would be dispelled. One could clearly see that the bodies of the 5 demon race martial artists were immediately washed away, revealing their skeletons. These skeletons were quickly burned to ashes, leaving behind only human-shaped spirit bodies. These spirit bodies were clearly desperately struggling, but it was of no use as they were directly washed away by the torrent of water. This scene shocked everyone present. Most people were stunned. So this was what it meant to have one's soul destroyed. Ding Ming withdrew his hand and said expressionlessly, They wanted to kill me, so you just shut up and watched. Now I've only injured a few people, and you jumped out and shouted. How did you become the vice president? This was the reason why he was dissatisfied. Are you on the side of the Holy Grail Federation, or are you on the side of the demons? How dare you? An old man with a white beard next to Liu Xiaobing glared and said, You don't have the right to judge General Liu's actions. Ding Ming smiled. It seems that there's still many people who aren't afraid of death today. As soon as these words came out, even a person like Tan Long, who was able to keep his cool, couldn't help but reveal a look of surprise. It's fine if you killed a few of the Creative Universe Corporation's servants, but don't tell me you dare to make a move on a high-ranking official of the Federation. The old man with the white beard was so angry that he laughed. Do you know who I am? Chapter 1006. Seeing that things were getting out of hand, Zhu Lang could no longer sit still. He stood up and walked over to Ding Meng. He cautiously reminded him, "Senior, this is General Xie Feishi, a famous general of the Federation." Why did this name sound so familiar? Ding Meng frowned. What's his relationship with Xie Feili? Zhu Lang didn't expect Ding Meng to know Xie Feili. He's Senior Xie's senior. He has a very high reputation in the Federation. The conversation between the two couldn't escape the ears of the crowd. Xie Feishi said proudly, "I advise you to behave yourself. Take the initiative to reveal your identity and allow yourself to be inspected. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you have some ability." Ding Meng glanced at him. "I won't argue with you for Xie Feili's sake. But if you insist on spouting nonsense, I can shut you up at any time." Xie Feishi was furious. "You dare speak to me like that?" Ding Meng said, "I'm giving you face by talking to you. I don't usually like to talk with my mouth." Another old man in a black robe sneered. "You don't like to talk with your mouth? What? Do you like to talk with your mouth?" The crowd burst into laughter. Ding Meng's expression darkened. He didn't expect that the new president's cabinet members would be of such quality. Ding Meng stared at the old man in black and asked, "And who are you?" The old man in black also had a proud expression. "I'm afraid you don't have the right to know." Ding Meng was expressionless. "That's fine too. It doesn't matter whether I know or not." The atmosphere suddenly fell silent, and a chill spread through the air. Although Ding Meng didn't use any origin energy, everyone could feel a strong killing intent. This was definitely coming from Ding Meng. The old man in black looked at Ding Meng with contempt. "What? You want to attack me? You're wrong." Ding Meng locked his gaze on him like a knife. "Even if God himself were here today, you'd still have to die. I don't kill nameless people, but since you don't want to talk about it, then don't blame me." "Huh?" The black-clothed old man raised his head and laughed. "Are you angry? Bring it on. Show me what you're made of. You're courting death." Ding Meng had already activated the first 3 origin points, and a powerful aura was released. Just the activation of these 3 origin points was not something an ordinary warrior could withstand. Many people from the Apocalypse group felt their vision go dark, and they fell backwards. These Battle Sage level origin ability users were unable to withstand such a terrifying aura. Swish! Ding Meng immediately disappeared from the chair. In the eyes of the few experts from the Federation, not only was Ding Meng's body covered in white flames, but he had also turned into a light form. It was still the standard Ding-style handblade, but it was no longer the carp leaping over the Dragon Gate. It was completely a light beam, so fast that it caught everyone off guard. The old man in black was originally very disdainful, but now he was truly shocked. He quickly raised his hand to block it. He was not the only one who blocked it. Xie Feishi and the other 2 old men beside him raised their hands at the same time. A 7-colored shield-shaped layer was erected in front of the 4 of them. The layer was not thick, but runes flowed and patterns appeared. It was as dazzling as a formation. It was clearly a very powerful defensive technique. Ding Meng immediately sensed the uniqueness of this 4-man defensive formation. The layers seemed to be cast from the essence of the hard system. It did not clash with force in the traditional sense. Instead, it invisibly produced a distorted suction force, just like a vortex. Ding Meng had a premonition that the energy and strength of this attack would be greatly weakened. It was like punching a sponge. These old monsters from the Holy Grail Federation were indeed very powerful. They had at least 300 to 400 years of hard work behind them. But so what? They were just peak war gods who had yet to break through. Fighting against interstellar warriors was simply courting death. Ding Meng raised his other hand and formed the shape of a hand blade. Origin flames spurted out from his fingertips. Not only did the hand blade lengthen, but its aura also increased by 10 times. The other party immediately sensed this fluctuation. CF Feishi shouted, "General Liu, be careful." Liu Xiaobing was not weak either. She quickly dodged to the side. Ding Meng's left hand blade slashed horizontally at the shield. The layer of plating shattered with a ding-ling sound. Then, the blade in his right hand slashed at the old man's head. This slash was so fast that the old man in black did not even have time to activate his shield. His forehead was hit on the spot. His entire body was smashed to the ground and rolled backward. Everywhere he passed, the steel plates of the steel bridge were lifted up. They flew into the air with white flames and scattered. The cliff was lit up again. Although the old man in black was severely injured, he was very experienced in battle. He half knelt on the ground and propped up a light blue spherical shield. The surface of the shield was still crackling with electricity. When he stood up shakily, he did not see Ding Meng. Instead, he heard CF Feishi's exclamation, "Old Saber, be careful." However, it was too late. A gust of wind blew in front of him. There seemed to be a shadow floating in the wind. Its speed was extremely fast, and this shadow was Ding Meng's real body. There was another ping sound. Ding Meng's merciless iron hand passed through the shield and accurately grabbed the old man's neck. The shield could not stop Ding Meng, nor could it cause any damage to Ding Meng. "You? How is this possible?" The old man in black was extremely shocked. He still wanted to say something, but a large amount of energy suddenly poured into his throat. He realized that all the origin points in his body had been sealed. Breathing became difficult, and even his vision became blurry. "What are you doing? Stop!" CF Feishi roared. In fact, only he knew that this seemingly angry roar was far less terrifying than the fear in his heart. His opponent had broken the shield with a single palm strike, then sent Old Saber flying with a single palm strike. Now, he had directly lifted Old Saber up. It looked like he was ready to crush Old Saber to death. Previously, if someone had said that they could crush Old Saber with one hand, he would have thought that this person was crazy. Now, he did not dare to think this way. This was because this was really possible, and the possibility was very high. "Stop!" The old man in the suit next to Xie Feishi also shouted angrily. "How dare you lay your hands on the Federation's 3-star general, Old Saber? Aren't you afraid of being hunted down by the higher-ups of the military? Hurry up and put him down, do you hear me?" Ding Meng turned his head and stared at him. "Are you threatening me?" This look was even more terrifying than a direct attack. CF Feishi and the others all saw this pair of deep and lifeless eyes. Only an expert who had killed people like Scything Flax could have such a sharp gaze. "If you dare lay your hands on Old Saber, you will definitely be hunted down by the combined fleet and even the entire Federal Empire. Hurry up and put it down." Another person roared crazily. Ding Meng was most annoyed by these people. He sneered and said, "And who are you?" The man quickly replied, "I am the highest-ranking executive officer of the Holy Grail Federation's MI3. I order you to put him down immediately. Hurry up." Ding Meng suddenly slashed out with his right hand. This hand chop hit the old man in black's right temple. However, the huge force and energy caused the left temple to explode with a bang. Thick black blood spurted out from the inside like a sharp arrow. The old man in black's head hung limply. Looking at his injuries, even if he could be saved, he would be in a vegetative state. Ding Meng threw the old man onto the bridge and stared at the crowd coldly. At this moment, the entire manor was dead silent. Everyone spontaneously stepped back. The fear in their hearts was far greater than the shock. Not only was the other party ridiculously strong, but he also dared to kill. Perhaps only Zhang Feng, Zhu Lang, and Gu Cheng were secretly rejoicing. This senior even dared to kill the top officials and dignitaries of the Federation. What did he not dare to do? Ding Meng said calmly. "Who was the one who ordered me to let him go just now? I didn't hear you clearly. Please repeat yourself." The crowd was still dead silent. If they dared to respond at a time like this, it would be purely because they were tired of living. Seeing that the crowd was silent, Ding Ming laughed disdainfully. You bunch of arrogant trash. You haven't even reached the level of interstellar martial artists, yet you dare to put on airs in front of me. You're simply ignorant. Perhaps for most of the people present, this was the first time they had heard of the concept of interstellar martial artists. Of course, even the stupidest person should know that interstellar martial artists were far stronger than war god-level origin ability users. Ding Ming himself was probably a strong person who was even stronger than interstellar martial artists. Seeing Ding Ming slowly walk toward the bridge, Xie Feishi suddenly became nervous. He didn't dare to raise his hands up or put them down. This gesture fully exposed his state of mind. He was completely afraid. There was absolutely no way he could win. He was very clear on this point. The higher one's strength was, the easier it was to see the difference between oneself and others. However, he didn't dare to admit defeat. He couldn't just let himself be killed, right? Protect General Liu, Xie Feishi decisively ordered. A group of people once again gathered around Liu Xiaobing. Liu Xiaobing had long been shocked to the extreme by the opponent's strength. She was forcing herself to remain calm. Ding Ming glanced at Xie Feishi. Where's that arrogance of yours just now? Where did it go now? Xie Feishi swallowed hard. At worst, we'll fight it out with you. I don't believe it. Ding Ming laughed. If you say something like that again, your heart has already collapsed. You're not worth my time at all. I really don't know how the president cabinet was chosen this time. You people want to open the forbidden area of the demons? You think you're worthy? Even though Xie Feishi had lived for a long time, he couldn't help but blush. Although he was shouting, "Fight it out," he was obviously scared. Only the weak would shout such a slogan. The real strong always spoke with their strength. Ding Ming suddenly waved his hand. Someone in the crowd automatically flew up and floated towards the steel bridge. He was fixed in the air and couldn't move. It was a young officer. He was also the one who had shouted at Ding Ming to let him go. At this moment, he no longer had any official airs. He stared at the opponent in horror. Ding Ming looked at him coldly. I heard that you can order the combined fleet and even the entire Federal Empire to hunt me down. Show me. How could the officer dare to reply? Liu Xiaobing couldn't stand it anymore. She braced herself and said, Enough. You've already killed so many people. What else do you want? Ding Ming glanced at her sharply. The more you talk, the more miserable his death will be. I'm asking you if you believe it. If you dare to say no, he'll die immediately. Liu Xiaobing's heart trembled. She didn't dare to say another word. The other party's aura was even more tyrannical than hers. Zhang Feng, Gu Cheng, and the others stared blankly. Damn, he could make the vice president of the Federation retreat with just one sentence. That was really King awesome. Chapter 1007. Can you stop when it's appropriate? You've already killed so many people. What else do you want? Someone was still unconvinced and continued to speak. Ding Ming mercilessly chopped the young officer's head with his palm. The officer immediately fell to the ground, unconscious. Streams of dirty blood oozed out of his eyes, nostrils, ears, and mouth at the same time, and his breath was weak. Who was the one who told me to stop when it's appropriate? Ding Ming asked calmly again. This time, no one dared to speak again. This man of steel was just so domineering. Whoever thought they were capable, he would slap them. Ding Ming waved his hand again. Another person in the line was uncontrollably sucked out by his telekinesis and fell onto the steel bridge with a thud. Ding Ming lowered his head and looked at him coldly. Do you know that this young man was crippled because you thought you were smart enough to talk too much? This was an older, middle-aged officer. How would he dare to reply? Even the president didn't dare to say anything. Do you think you can order people around? Ding Ming said disdainfully. The middle-aged officer gritted his teeth and said, You killed so many people for no reason and even crippled a respected general of the Federation. You will definitely suffer in the future. Ding Ming's answer was a kick. He kicked the man off the steel bridge. The middle-aged officer screamed and fell off the cliff. His voice did not sound like it was from fear, but from pain. It was obvious that he could not withstand the force of this kick. After getting rid of these troublemakers one after another, Ding Ming coldly raised his head and looked at the crowd. Although he did not speak, 3 words seemed to be written on his face. Who else? Xie Feishi and the others clenched their fists, but they still did not dare to act rashly. This group of people usually boasted that they were in high positions and had extraordinary strength. They always spoke and acted in a superior and condescending manner. Today, they had met an even fiercer person. I won't talk nonsense with you. I'll reason with you with my fists. Seeing that these people were finally stunned, Ding Ming looked at Liu Xiaobing and asked, "Where's the combined fleet headquarters?" As the acting vice president of the Federation, it was impossible for her not to know the answer to this question. Liu Xiaobing asked in a deep voice, "What do you want to do?" Ding Ming said, "What am I going to do? Do you think you have a right to ask?" This was how she had confronted Ding Ming before. Now, Ding Ming was returning the favor. Liu Xiaobing shut her mouth again. She was obviously unwilling to answer. Ding Ming said, "My patience is limited. I don't want to waste my breath on people who don't know anything. Since you guys don't know anything, there's no point in keeping you alive." He suddenly shouted towards the door, "Go get someone." Zhang Feng and Zhu Lang were stunned. "You're calling for more people?" Ding Ming said, "Just say that everyone here is dead, including Vice President Liu. Go get me some more powerful opponents." Zhang Feng and the others were dumbfounded. "Senior, are you trying to blow up the heavens?" Xie Feishi could no longer hold it in. He said angrily, "Do you know the consequences of murdering the vice president? Are you crazy?" Ding Ming said calmly, "Isn't it just a pile of scrap metal? Do you really think it that great?" Xie Feishi felt like he was going to have a cerebral hemorrhage. But what Rinpochian said made sense. Was he any different from scrap metal in front of Rinpochian? At this critical moment, Liu Xiaobing still showed her responsibility as the vice president. "I can take you to the headquarters, but I have a condition. You should reveal your identity. That place is not a place where you can go as you please." Ding Ming nodded. He immediately withdrew the assimilation technique and revealed his true identity. For a moment, the crowd cried out in surprise. Ding Ming. None of the people present had ever dealt with Ding Ming before, but Ding Ming's reputation was too great. Now, he seemed to be the #1 person in the Federation. No wonder he killed them without hesitation. This was a ruthless person who even had a grudge against the Empire's ruler. Liu Xiaobing said thoughtfully, "So it's you." Ding Ming said, "Am I qualified to go?" There was no need to ask. If Ding Ming was not qualified, then no one here was. Xie Feishi was still angry. "You're a citizen of the Federation, but you killed a general of the Federation. What are you trying to do?" Ding Ming could not be bothered with him. He pointed at Liu Xiaobing and said, "Lead the way. Get on the same ship as me." Liu Xiaobing had no choice but to walk towards the steel bridge. Xie Feishi was still sulking in place, but there was no point in being angry. Rinpochian was not even interested in talking to him. When one's strength reached a certain level, some things could be completely ignored. It was a classic case of, "What can you do to me?" Dozens of spaceships rose into the air again, also using short-distance spatial transmissions to cross the distance. Very soon, Ding Ming saw a normal starry sky. This was the kind of beautiful starry sky that was filled with stars, not a complicated star field filled with meteorites and nebulae. It was obvious that the spaceships had left the rainforest and were flying in the opposite direction. However, this was understandable. The main force of the combined fleet could not enter the rainforest. In an empty star field, Ding Ming finally saw a neat and complete super interstellar fleet. The leading mothership was the Federation's highest-level Golden Elephant, class stellar-level starship. This was an outstanding invention of the grassroots empire. The entire Federation only had 5 of them, and they were all built with astronomical resources. Be it in terms of performance or system, it was second to none. This was an advantage that the Empire could not compare to, and also the fundamental reason why the Empire had always been deeply afraid of the Federation. The overall shape of the Golden Elephant warship was like 8 elephants stacked together from different directions. It looked like an alien beast from the depths of the sea of stars, giving off a sense of oppression and awe. However, what was truly amazing about it was its various systems. It was equipped with space jump, photon aggregation, wave-particle imaging, space-time tunneling, antimatter propulsion, and so on. Before this, even Little Rascal and Xinjia were full of praise for this starship. Today, Ding Ming finally saw it with his own eyes, and even he felt a sense of awe. In addition to the Golden Elephant mothership, there were 3 Golden Eagle battleships escorting him. Outside the Golden Eagle battleships were 12 War Elephant battleships, and so on. Outside the Golden Eagle battleships were the Dragon Slayer battleships, the Skywalker 4 assault battleships, the Falcon Dragon 8th generation interceptor battleships, the Dragon 2 frigate, the Rainbow Wing reconnaissance battleships, and the Honga supply ship. Looking as far as the eye could see, the entire starfield was like a miniature galaxy. All the densely packed starships were planets, and they were all orbiting around the star that was the Golden Elephant mothership. The scene was magnificent and magnificent. This super fleet was no longer as simple as the Great Wall of Steel. It was like a huge ring of stars. Even if the Federal Empire was destroyed, such a fleet could establish its own country in space. It could be completely self-sufficient and operate for a long time. The command center of the mothership was located in the center of the core of the cabin. This could no longer be described as a hall, but an extremely large matrix space. It was a bit like a hive of entropy. There was no need for a control panel in the major areas. They were all interspersed with light screens in the form of streamers. In fact, this was already a prototype of divine light technology. The staff only needed to fiddle with the panel in a fixed position to issue commands. An extremely long metal conference table was placed in the middle of the empty space. This was the main control console. Many light spots were floating above the table. These were the embryonic form of the divine light singularity. Fiddling with these light spots would instantly generate the information model you needed. Around the main control panel were luxuriously decorated sofas. The people sitting there were the top brass of the 2 countries and the confidential personnel of the major forces. It seemed that they were discussing something. Ding Ming and his group were sent to the command center by Chu Ying. When they saw Ding Ming, most of them stood up. 2 people came up to him. One of them was a middle-aged man in casual black clothes. He smiled and said, "I have heard a lot about Mr. Ting. It is an honor to finally meet you in person today. I am Zheng Fongying. Welcome to the fleet headquarters." This was the newly appointed acting president of the Federation. However, Ding Ming did not have a good impression of Zheng Fongying. This new president was completely different from the previous president, Bai Xingfei. Bai Xingfei had a scholarly appearance and a calm demeanor. He was more like a kind elder. On the other hand, Zheng Fongying was much younger. He looked more like a businessman. His smile was like a template that was engraved on his face. When he smiled, he was radiant and made people happy. Even if he did not smile, there were faint traces of a smile. You would think that this person was easy to deal with. But in reality, Ding Ming did not think so. To be able to sit in the position of the Federation president, how could one get there just by smiling? Ding Ming looked around and found that Zheng Fongying was also not breathing. As expected, he could not be underestimated. Walking side by side with Zheng Fongying was a short and skinny old man. He was wearing a retro dark-colored long robe. His expression was serious, and there was a trace of malice between his eyebrows. When he saw Ding Ming, he only nodded indifferently as a greeting. In fact, Ding Ming had seen this person on TV before. This was Yin He, the general director of the Norse Empire's parliament. In the empire, the general director was the most powerful position in addition to the head of state. He was equivalent to the second in command of the empire and had the right to mobilize the army and the parliament. Moreover, Yin He had been the general director for several terms. Since he had been in this position for many years, Ding Ming did not underestimate him. Most of the senior generals of the Federal Empire were near the control panel. They were all unfamiliar faces. In addition to these people, Ding Ming saw many familiar faces. Yu Tianlin of the Shenghao group was in sight, and Jin Xiaoyan was standing next to Yu Tianlin. In addition to Sheng Hao and Xing Hong, what surprised Ding Ming the most was that a woman in black with a long sword and a black scabbard was also there. However, she was tightly covered, only revealing a pair of eyes. Ding Ming could not help but laugh. What a coincidence! Yes. The ugly woman smiled sadly. I didn't expect you to make it here alive. We all thought you were missing. She was probably worried about the presence of so many big shots. She was just short of saying, we all thought you were dead. Ding Ming glanced at an ugly woman. It seemed that everyone's strength had improved significantly. They were really controlling their aura and did not release a trace of it. Chapter 1008. In the eyes of outsiders, this super fleet was awe-inspiring, but in Ding Ming's eyes, the purpose of this fleet's existence was to burn money. Even if it was parked in this sector without moving, it was still burning a huge amount of energy every minute and second. Therefore, it was impossible that it did not have the support of a large organization behind it. Among them were Apocalypse, Chuang Yu, Xing Hao, and Xing Hong. These four families were the top wealthy families in the Federal Empire, but the leaders of three of the four families were not present. It was not convenient for Ding Ming to ask directly in this situation because Zheng Fangying and Yin, he had gathered everyone together to discuss something. Ding Ming's attention fell on the southeast corner. There was a unique workbench there, where a beautiful woman wearing low-light glasses was working intently. Ding Ming walked over. Long time no see. Lin Kejia turned his chair around. You're finally here, Ding Ming asked curiously. Why are you at the headquarters of the combined fleet? Lin Kejia stood up. Because I'm the chief engineer of this fleet. Ding Ming smiled. You've changed jobs? You're no longer working as a data master at the Research Institute? Lin Kejia sighed slightly. This is all thanks to you. Ding Ming was stunned. What does this have to do with me? Lin Kejia explained. Ever since you destroyed the Protoss Forbidden Zone on Rainforest Planet 5, the subspace beneath the sacred planet has all been abolished. What else can the Research Institute study? Ding Ming said apologetically, It looks like I've caused you to lose your job. Lin Kejia operated the workbench with both hands. But I also have a new job. A holographic model was brought up. This was the scene on Planet 32. The sky was filled with countless wormholes, and there were also countless spaceships taking off and landing below. Lin Kejia took the initiative to ask, What do you think? Ding Ming said, Aren't you asking the wrong person? If you want to ask, you should ask the demon's martial artist. For example, there's one over there. Naturally, he was referring to an ugly woman. However, an ugly woman had changed her usual style. She was sitting in the resting area in the distance, leisurely eating pastries. She did not participate in the high-level meetings, nor did she walk around. It looked like everything had nothing to do with her. Lin Kejia sighed again. I've asked her. She doesn't know what's going on. Ding Ming asked suspiciously. Are you sure she doesn't know? Or is she deliberately hiding it from you? She's not to be sure of this. I'm sure of that. Ding Ming turned around. It was Lin Kejia's female assistant. She was holding an optical computer and walking over. Ding Ming looked at her carefully, then smiled. When did you become Master Lin's assistant? The female assistant seemed to know that she could not hide it from him. She took the initiative to explain. We've known each other for many years. This female assistant was obviously not the one from the Research Institute. She was someone else. This person was Nanshuan. Although her appearance and figure were 100% realistic, Ding Ming immediately captured her aura. This aura was unique to Nanshuan. Ding Ming suddenly realized why Nanshuan and the transit string were able to enter the underground world. It turned out that they went down from Lin Kejia's Research Institute, not from Rabic City. And how did Nanshuan and the transit string survive the fierce battle in the temple? This was another mystery. Ding Ming suddenly felt that Nanshuan seemed to be hiding many secrets that no one knew. Nan Sun was still smiling. There are so many people here, but they can't do anything. We can only wait for you. Ding Ming asked curiously, Why are you waiting for me? Nanshuan said, Even the demons don't know how to break it. Then the gods should know something, right? Ding Meng looked at the model on the table. He pondered and said, "Didn't you say that you can open it if you find a magic stone tool?" Lin Kejia replied, "Actually, we found a long time ago. It's actually useless." Ding Meng was surprised again. "Oh." Lin Kejia adjusted the model and saw that the sky above Planet 32 suddenly changed. All the wormholes gathered towards the central horizon and slowly merged into a super huge space-time tunnel. Ding Meng's eyes widened. "What's going on?" Lin Kejia explained, "Don't be surprised. This is just the result of my simulation. This will happen when you gather all the tools. All the wormholes will evolve into a huge amount of antimatter energy. Simply put, this is not a wormhole." Ding Meng wondered, "If this is not a wormhole, then what is it?" Lin Kejia said, "Although it looks like a very large space-time tunnel, it violates the law of energy. Let me put it simply, it doesn't have a teleportation function. If a spaceship enters, small units will immediately be destroyed. However, if our mothership enters, it won't be teleported away. Instead, it will be expelled. However, large units can't enter Planet 32. This is the so-called forbidden land of the demons." "That's the beauty of it," Ding Meng nodded. Lin Kejia was the best data master in the Federal Empire. This speculation was the most authoritative. He immediately understood the predicament that the combined fleet was facing. The super fleet here couldn't enter, and Planet 32 didn't dare to launch a large-scale attack. They were in a dilemma. The most important problem was that they didn't know anything about the inside of this forbidden land. If they rashly entered and something happened, the Federal Empire wouldn't be able to bear such a huge loss, be it individual units or fleet units. If the super fleet lost one unit, not only would all the elites on board die, but the Golden Elephant mothership would also be destroyed. When that happened, the frogmen would sound the horn for a counterattack. Lin Kejia continued, "That's why the headquarters have been waiting for news. They're waiting for someone in the know to come. Now that you're here, if even you don't know the details, then I don't think anyone else knows. Based on the current losses, the combined fleet can stay here for at most a month before they have to return. The fertile chalk system will return to its original state." Ding Meng smiled bitterly. "Aren't you guys overestimating me? If I could break this restriction, I would have entered long ago. Why would I need to go through so much trouble to find my way to the headquarters?" For a moment, Lin Kejia and Nanshuan fell silent. If even Ding Meng didn't know, then the retreat of the army was inevitable. After a long silence, Lin Kejia spoke again. "Actually, it's good that they're retreating." "Why?" Ding Meng and Nanshuan asked in unison. Lin Kejia looked at the model in a daze. "Although I can't calculate the result of this giant wormhole, I have a feeling that it's the exact opposite of the Protoss forbidden area that you guys found. According to Sister Sun's description, the Protoss forbidden area's mechanism is a subspace that pushes forward layer by layer. It has a protective effect, preventing the temple's energy source from being excavated. According to the characteristics of the Protoss and demons, this forbidden area's mechanism is probably a confinement mechanism. It won't let anything from the outside in, and it won't let anything from the inside out. That's why I think retreating is a wise choice. Unfortunately, some people won't listen to this advice. Some people, naturally referred to the upper echelons of the Federal Empire's military. People like Zheng Fangying and Yin, he would definitely not listen to this advice. Over the years, the secrets of the Protoss and demons have been unraveled one by one. Who would give up on a treasure trove and leave on their own accord? Ding Meng was silent. "It's not that no one doesn't know the reason behind this. I think there must be someone who knows." Lin Kejia was a little curious. "Who is it?" Ding Meng smiled. "I don't know for the time being, but you should be able to find out, right?" After saying that, he turned and walked towards the lounge. Nanshuan thought for a moment and decided to follow Ding Meng. As expected, Ding Meng was going after an ugly woman. An ugly woman was still eating and drinking on the sofa. She seemed to be the same as Ding Meng. She couldn't bear to see the delicacies in front of her and had to finish them. Ding Meng sat down opposite an ugly woman. He unceremoniously reached out to the coffee table, grabbed a few boxes of peach slices, and stuffed them into his mouth. He didn't look like he was eating. He looked like he was snatching them. An ugly woman sneered. Are you in the wrong place? Ding Meng had a complicated look on his face. You're really lucky to be alive now. An ugly woman sneered even more. If you want to take revenge on me, you've chosen the wrong place. There are so many big shots here. No one dares to use force here. This was also true. In addition to Zheng, Fangying, and Yan He, there were more than 30 generals here in the Federal Empire. All of them were good fighters, unlike people like Liu Xiaobing and Xie Feishi, who were more famous than they were capable. Ding Meng said, I don't think there's any hatred between us, right? An ugly woman frowned and said, What do you mean? Ding Meng said, You're just a defeated opponent. It's that simple. An ugly woman stopped eating and gritted her teeth. But you stole my woman. Ding Meng suddenly laughed. Don't pretend. Even if I give you a beautiful woman, you can't touch her. An ugly woman stared at him. What are you trying to say? Ding Meng said meaningfully, You're here, but Wen Yang isn't. This explains a lot. If you're interested, why don't we talk somewhere else? After that, he took the initiative to get up and walk towards the main passage in the north. An ugly woman stared at his back and chewed a few more mouthfuls of sugar pills before she gritted her teeth and said, I'll see what you're up to this time. Ding Meng entered the main passage to avoid detection. He spread out his telekinetic vision and blocked all the probes and signals in the passage. An ugly woman also came to the passage, but she was still very vigilant. Her left hand was at her waist, ready to draw her sword at any time to prevent Ding Meng from attacking her. Tell me, what do you want? Ding Meng turned around and said, I've already met the Fifth Lord. An ugly woman said impatiently, What are you talking about? I don't understand. Ding Meng said, Okay, then I'll be straightforward. I've already met the elder and the princess. An ugly woman looked even more impatient. What elder and the princess? What does it have to do with me? Ding Meng stared at her and finally said something shocking. I just found out that you're a double agent. What nonsense are you talking about? An ugly woman denied it, but there was still a flash of unnaturalness in her eyes. Ding Meng said, If you're not, you shouldn't be in the combined fleet headquarters now. If you are, you must be here now because you have nowhere to go. I didn't think of this at first, but that bald-headed Chuan Yu was also teleported here. This confirms your identity. You're a double agent. Chapter 1009. Ding Meng's tone was not one of doubt, but one of absolute certainty. An ugly woman was silent for a long time before she asked, How can you tell? Ding Meng said, I guessed. Guessed? An ugly woman was stunned. What do you mean by that? Ding Meng said, It's very likely that you were a spy sent by the Fifth Lord many years ago. At that time, the Fifth Lord had not yet been banned by the Grassroots Empire. The reason he sent you was to infiltrate the inner workings of the Hidden Front. After all, the greatest enemy of the Divine Light martial artists are the Devil Sky martial artists. However, the Fifth Lord had learned both Mao Xing's martial arts techniques and the Devil Sky's martial arts techniques. Therefore, I guess that the martial arts techniques he taught you were based on the Devil Sky's martial arts techniques and supplemented by the Divine Light's martial arts techniques. An ugly woman did not answer. She just listened patiently. Ding Meng said, I have always felt that the location of the Rainforest Hidden Front Space Station is not normal. An ugly woman said, What's not normal? Ding Meng said, Let me explain a few reasons first. First, the Hidden Front Space Station has been operating near planet number 5 for so many years. Is it really just to produce remade warriors? An ugly woman said, and then? Ding Meng said, The demons should know that planet number 5 is the key to the Divine Light's energy source. However, they have no way of opening it. They must lure a Divine Light martial artist there. At that time, Wen Yang was still a pure Divine Light martial artist. An ugly woman said, So what? Ding Meng said, This proves that Lin Fei was not chosen by the Hidden Front by chance. Instead, it was carefully planned step by step and successfully attracted Wen Yang's attention. However, during that incident, Wen Yang's energy was devoured by the Divine Light's array. This proves that the forbidden area cannot be opened by a Divine Light martial artist. You definitely know this, but the hidden front does not. The reason is simple. Julie was also on planet number 5 at that time. If Wen Yang could have opened the forbidden area by himself, you and Julie would have appeared to stop him. Therefore, you knew from the beginning that Wen Yang would not only be unable to open the forbidden area, but would also be doomed. An ugly woman said, "What does this prove?" Ding Meng said, "Wen Yang is a divine light martial artist. The Fifth Lord would definitely not harm him. Therefore, he invited him to the Black Handprint's headquarters as a guest. So, here comes the question. How did he get attacked on the way?" An ugly woman said, "It's very simple. The Hidden Front's people have been lying in ambush all around." Ding Meng smiled. Even if there was an ambush, the person who picked him up was Julie. There are not many people who can deal with Julie, but Wen Yang was still snatched away. This proves that the ambushers already knew how powerful Julie was. The people sent by the Hidden Front were obviously at a higher level than Gongping and the others. Therefore, they were able to defeat Julie. However, this was not a coincidence. It was premeditated. Think about it. Based on the situation at that time, Yuan Liang, Zhang Tianyang, and Luo Si would never have known that Julie was nearby. Then, who sold out Julie's whereabouts? An ugly woman sneered. "It looks like it was me." Ding Meng said, "It's not looks like, it's definitely you. Because only you know Julie's whereabouts. This proves that you are working for the Hidden Front at the same time." An ugly woman said, "You're exaggerating." Ding Meng said, "I didn't think of this at first, but now that I've been to the Black Handprint headquarters and seen the Fifth Lord and Julie, I know how difficult it is to go to their headquarters. If Wen Yang becomes one of the Fifth Lord's people, that is something that the Hidden Front does not want to see. They must kidnap Wen Yang." An ugly woman said, "But this doesn't prove that I'm one of the Fifth Lord's people, right?" Ding Meng continued, "Wen Yang was kidnapped by the Hidden Front and received the power of the demons. I can understand this. If he wants to kill Lin Fei and regain his position as the head of state, he has no choice but to become a demon sky martial artist. That's why he killed Lin Fei effortlessly in the Apocalypse building. It's strange that he didn't kill me." An ugly woman said coldly, "He seems to admire you." Ding Meng laughed. "He's a martial artist of the demons. What's there to admire about a martial artist of the divine light? Since he has become the spokesperson of the Hidden Front, he should be loyal to the Hidden Front. But he shouldn't have left me to you." An ugly woman couldn't help but ask why. Ding Meng said, "Because he knew from the beginning that you were no match for me. Perhaps you received orders to kill me. But have you thought about it? Wen Yang's real intention was to use me to get rid of you. One of the reasons was that the Hidden Front had begun to suspect you. Another reason was that Wen Yang wasn't truly loyal to the Hidden Front." An ugly woman looked surprised. She realized that Ding Meng's analysis of many things was more profound than hers. Ding Meng continued, "During our battle, you were forced into a corner. You had no choice but to use the power of the divine light. I'm guessing that only I know this secret. That's why you schemed to deal with me." An ugly woman took a deep breath. "I admit that the current you is no longer someone I can deal with." Ding Meng said, "You're actually a dual cultivator of the divine light and the devil light. This makes me suspect that you're on the side of the Fifth Lord. That's why I said that you're a double agent." An ugly woman said, "But that's not enough." Ding Meng said, "What happened at the temple?" An ugly woman was silent. She said, "Wen Yang ordered Long Yu to kill Bai Xingfei. He wanted to get Bai Xingfei's halberd, but Long Yu couldn't find a way to get it. Later, I learned that the weapon was in your hands. After you disappeared, Wen Yang couldn't deal with the remaining power of the temple." Ding Meng stared at her. "But you can definitely absorb it." An ugly woman looked into the distance, seemingly unwilling to answer this question. Ding Meng said, "And once you absorb it, you'll expose your true identity as a dual cultivator of the divine light and the devil light. You'll completely confirm the Hidden Front's suspicions about you." An ugly woman said, "If it were you, wouldn't you be willing to absorb it? Martial artists are constantly pursuing cultivation and resources. I can't just let go of such good resources, can I?" Ding Meng said, "But if you choose to do this, the Black Handprint will no longer trust you. The hidden front will also abandon you. You can only stay in the combined fleet and not go anywhere. This is the only way to protect yourself. An ugly woman said, "What makes you think so?" Ding Meng smiled. All the big shots who chose the combined fleet headquarters are gathered here, but Wen Yang, Zhong Lin Fei, Guan Xinqing, and the transit string are not here. They must know some secrets, or they know that this is not a key location, so they left long ago. It makes sense that the other three left, but as Wen Yang's assistant, he didn't take you with him. This is enough to show that you're a big problem. He won't let you participate in the core's secrets. An ugly woman's eyes were a little dazed. This time, she was silent for a long time before she said, "Do you know how my face was disfigured?" Ding Meng frowned. "How was it disfigured?" An ugly woman said through gritted teeth, "It was Ji Qinyu's doing." "Oh." Ding Meng was surprised. "How did the two of you know each other?" An ugly woman said, "We used to be classmates on the Imperial planet. I was born in an ordinary family, and it wasn't easy for me to make it to the Imperial planet. Who knew that I would meet that demoness, Ji Qinyu? At the time, my boyfriend and I were very close. She took a fancy to him and insisted on forcing him to be her boyfriend. Of course, my boyfriend wouldn't agree. She first disfigured me, then secretly murdered my boyfriend, and finally beat me into a cripple and left me on an abandoned planet. I thought I was going to die at that time, but I survived." Ding Meng said, "Someone saved you?" An ugly woman said, "It happened many years ago. It was the Fifth Lord who saved me. He saw that I was quite talented in the way of the sword, so he taught me the skills of the demons." Ding Meng said, "Looks like my guess was right." An ugly woman nodded. "After I was sent to the hidden front, I did follow the Fifth Lord instructions to find out who the mastermind behind the hidden front was." Ding Meng said, "But you were also really working for the hidden front." An ugly woman sighed. "Be it the hidden front or the black handprint, they can't give me any real benefits. Money, men, and women are useless to me. What I want are resources and not ordinary resources." Ding Meng could understand. An ugly woman was not satisfied with being used and controlled by others. She also wanted to fight for rare resources to increase her own cultivation. Only when she became a real powerhouse would she have a chance to settle the score with Ji Qinyu. An ugly woman said, "I secretly taught Ji Qinyu the skills of the Protoss. My purpose was to divert the suspicion of the hidden front. Who knew that Wen Yang would marry her? At that time, I knew that the hidden front was completely suspicious of me. I had no choice but to speed up my revenge." Ding Meng sighed. "It's a pity that she and Long Yu were killed by Ling Xingwen, and it was an instant kill." An ugly woman clenched her teeth even tighter. "I originally planned to take her away in the Forbidden Temple during the chaos and then torture her to death slowly. God knew that she would be killed by Ling Xingwen, the hidden devil." Ding Meng said, "That's why we're in this situation now." An ugly woman sighed. "You're right. Even if I'm a double agent, I didn't get any benefits from either side." Ding Meng said, "Now that there are benefits to be gained, everyone has cast you aside." An ugly woman's eyes were a little lonely. "But I don't have any more wishes." Ding Meng sneered. "You've been involved in such a big mess. Do you still want to get out?" An ugly woman also sneered. "Do you think I'm afraid of death?" "I don't care anymore." Ding Meng said, "Then let me ask you, if I give you a chance to share in the feast now, would you be willing to?" An ugly woman sneered even more. "If you want to use me, just say it. You don't have to make empty promises like they did. But I also know what you want to ask. You want to know where Wen Yang is now, right? I'm not afraid to tell you the truth. I don't know anything." Ding Meng's heart sank. It seemed that an ugly woman had been completely abandoned, so he could only change his words. The hidden front has always had a spokesman outside. It used to be Lin Fei, and then it became Wen Yang. They should have a behind-the-scenes leader. An ugly woman nodded. "This person is too mysterious. I've been investigating for so many years, but I still can't find out who he is. No one knows who he is." Ding Meng said, "Now, even Master Lin is helpless against the demon's wormhole. However, all signs point to the hidden front being a pure demonic sky clan. Then, the leader of the hidden front must know. If we find this person, we'll definitely be able to find a solution." An ugly woman couldn't help but look at him. Do you think you're the only one who has doubts? Even when Yang doesn't know. I've never seen him even once. I heard from Lin Fei that Gong Ping had seen him once before. Unfortunately, you killed Gong Ping many years ago. Ding Meng smiled bitterly. It seems like I'm in the way. An ugly woman said, yes, you've always been in the way. Now, you're in the way. For example, roses, diamonds, and cigarettes. This was a very philosophical statement, but there was another meaning behind it. Ding Meng could not help but smile. I admire you. It was not a compliment. He had experienced it firsthand. Long Lin was able to say something like this, which proved that her vision and experience were top-notch. I should have known that you would come back to me sooner or later, but I didn't expect that the person I found would be you. Long Lin said slowly. Her words were simple, but there was a deep meaning behind them. Ding Meng said, then who do you think could have found you? The fifth lord of the black handprint. Long Lin answered immediately. Unfortunately, I seem to have overestimated him. Since he was released, he didn't seem to have any achievements to show. Since he couldn't show anything, he shouldn't have been able to find me. She paused and suddenly looked up. There was a hint of sharpness in her eyes. But you found me. Ding Meng seemed to sigh. To be honest, I never suspected you, but the clues slowly pointed to you. Long Lin said, I'd like to hear more. Ding Meng said, I heard that the hidden front has existed for thousands of years. Long Lin said, to be precise, it has been 1,036 years, 2 months, and 28 days. Ding Meng said, but the real rise of the hidden front was more than 100 years ago. The forces of the hidden front infiltrated the fertile chalk system. At that time, Guanzhong was still backed by the Gauss organization and had dealings with the empire's military and the upper echelons of the frogs. He seized a lot of wealth from them until the birth of the Chuanyu. Long Lin listened quietly. She even filled Ding Meng's cup with tea. Ding Meng continued, I've checked Guanzhong's history. He's not a business genius. Long Lin was curious. Oh. Ding Meng said, strictly speaking, he's a successful opportunist. When he was still in the fertile chalk system, he took advantage of everyone. He sold the information of the frogmen to the Federation, then sold the information of the Federation back to the frogmen to raise the price. Finally, he repeatedly sold the information of the Gauss organization. He relied on this method to make his fortune. Long Lin said, is there a problem? There is a huge problem. Ding Meng said in a low voice. Guanzhong was just a commoner, but he was able to play the upper echelons of the 3 factions. Not only was his life not in danger, but he was also able to withdraw. In the end, he even founded the Chuanyu organization. This can be considered a miracle, but there's a reason behind this miracle. An ugly woman was also curious. What reason? Ding Meng said, think about it. If he didn't have someone backing him, would he have been able to make such a big move? An ugly woman's gaze fell on Long Lin. Could it be that he was relying on Madame? Ding Meng shook his head. Madame was still General Long's daughter at the time. She hadn't really entered the mainstream yet. However, if my guess is correct, General Long must have been Guanzhong's backer in the upper echelons of the Empire's military. If it wasn't for General Long's protection, Guanzhong would have been finished long ago. Long Lin said, that makes sense. Ding Meng said, later on, the Long family fell. Your father had clearly thought of a way out. He had Guanzhong marry you and make you the wife of an official. With the giant, that is the Chuanyu organization behind you, the upper echelons of the empire couldn't do anything to you. Perhaps at that time, Madame had already come into contact with the demonic sky civilization. Long Lin's expression did not change. Please continue. Ding Meng said, in order to strengthen the power of the demons, it is necessary to nurture a direct line of martial artists. That is why I met Guan Wuming Duxing at the Fengyan conference, as well as Long Quan, Long Yin, and the others recently. They all had something in common. Not only were they proficient in the martial arts of the demons, but they all changed their surnames to Long. But why didn't they change their surnames to Guan? You must know that these people had once followed Guan Zhong through life and death in the fertile chalk system. Long Lin said, "These are all a bunch of vicious interstellar criminals. As the boss of the Chuangyu organization, how could Guan Xinqing have anything to do with them? That's more like it." Ding Ming clapped his hands and said, "Only with enough benefits and power can we keep them in check." After they were taken in by Madame, not only did their power increase greatly, but they also enjoyed great wealth and glory, becoming the true defensive force of the Chuangyu organization. It is widely rumored that the Chuangyu organization does not interact with other organizations, not because they are arrogant, but because they do not dare to do so. This is because after these forces have been in contact with the outside world for a long time, it is inevitable that they will reveal some clues. Long Lin praised, "It is commendable that you can think of this." Ding Ming continued, "At the same time, this force is the true core of the Hidden Front. With this group of people, it will be easier for Madame to do things. For example, looking for General Gong Ping. I'm guessing that General Gong Ping was an old acquaintance of General Long when he was alive." Long Lin sighed and said, "Gong Ping, Yuan Liang, Zhang Tianyang, Ross, and the others were all old acquaintances of my father when he was alive. They were generals that my father personally trained on the battlefield." Ding Meng said, "This explains why Gong Ping was willing to give himself to the Hidden Front and why Yuan Liang and the others betrayed Wen Yang. This is not something that Lin Fei can do. Only you, madam, can do it." Long Lin refused to answer this question. She changed her words and said, "I'm afraid that this alone does not prove anything." Ding Ming said, "This is just my speculation. General Long must have been a hawk general when he was alive. He always advocated for war with the Federation, but he had no choice but to give in under the circumstances and eventually died. The things that he could not do when he was alive should be done by you, madam." Long Lin nodded and said, "You're very smart." Ding Meng said, "The Hidden Front has a huge influence in many people. You have bases almost everywhere in the world. To run such a huge machine, you can't do it without a lot of financial resources. However, no one could find out the source of the Hidden Front's financial resources because no one would have thought that the Hidden Front was secretly supported by the Chuangyu. Only a large financial group like the Chuangyu could support it, and no one in the Chuangyu dared to investigate it, not even the head of state." The admiration in Long Lin's eyes deepened. Ding Meng said, "However, it is precisely because the Hidden Front has been moving more and more frequently in recent years that they have become a threat to the frontline war zones in the fertile chalk system. Perhaps someone has already begun to investigate in secret. Perhaps someone is already suspecting you, madam." Only then did Long Lin reveal a trace of surprise. "It is indeed very impressive that you can guess this point. In fact, I am not afraid to tell you that the people who are investigating me are the upper echelons of the military. And who leaked this information? It was Guan Xinqing." An ugly woman was shocked. "You are his wife. Why is he still plotting against you?" Ding Meng smiled and said, "Perhaps I can explain this reason. The Chuangyu's wealth and the Hidden Front power were all controlled by Madame. Guanzhong was just an empty shell. He had worked hard for many years and naturally did not want his achievements to be stolen by Madame. He definitely wanted to find a way to take it back. However, he did not have the ability to fight for power, so he had to use someone else to get rid of Madame. But he did not dare to do it too obviously, so he provided some secret information to the upper echelons. This upper echelon was probably head of state Wen Yang. At that time, head of state Wen Yang was still a pure divine light martial artist. He was definitely one of the people that Madame wanted to get rid of sooner or later." Long Lin praised, "It's a pity that you were still unknown at that time. Otherwise, I would definitely have chosen you to be my spokesperson in the Hidden Front." Hearing this, an ugly woman was shocked beyond words. She could not help but cry out, "Could you be the real leader of the Hidden Front behind the scenes?" Ding Meng said, "Correct. Chapter 10:12. Ding Ming suddenly said, "Actually, I've only figured it out now. When Miss Guan was kidnapped, it was all a show directed and staged by Madame. You knew that the higher-ups were investigating you, and that Guanzong was secretly stirring things up, so you beat him at his own game. First, you let Gong Ping kidnap Guanlin. This way, the higher-ups' suspicions about you would be completely eliminated because no one would believe it. How could a mother kidnap her own daughter?" Long Lin's expression did not change, as if this matter had nothing to do with her. Ding Ming said, "There's actually another benefit to kidnapping Miss Guan, which is to make Guanzong hesitate and not dare to make any more small moves. Otherwise, his own daughter would be dead. Think about it. With Chuangyu's enormous wealth and power, how could they not find any clues after 10 years? Moreover, Guanzong is a pervert. He didn't care about his own daughter and even wanted to marry the Empire's supermodel, Xing Jiao, as his third wife. It seems like he has completely given up on himself." Long Lin said, "He's smarter than you think. He knows that a wise man submits to circumstances, and a wise man is a hero. He can run such a large corporation like Chuangyu so well, so he must be quite capable." Ding Ming took a deep breath. "After Miss Guan was kidnapped, you found Lin Fei, a pitiful man trapped by love, and directly formed a hidden front with Gong Ping as the leader. Lin Fei has always been obsessed with Zhong Yaoan, so he was the best person to deal with Wenyang. Anyway, you're going to get rid of Wenyang sooner or later. So Lin Fei succeeded on Planet 5 and indirectly let everyone know that the Protoss Forbidden Area can't be opened by a single divine light martial artist." An ugly woman also understood when she heard this. She suddenly understood. No wonder Gong Ping asked me to reveal the location of Julie's spaceship. At that time, you already wanted to intercept Wenyang halfway. Long Lin said calmly, "Killing Wenyang is not the best choice. Keeping him alive is still useful." Ding Ming also nodded. "Killing Wenyang will probably alarm the Fifth Lord and cause a strong backlash from the Black Handprint. However, secretly controlling Wenyang is tantamount to secretly controlling the upper echelons of the Empire. It's a good move, but I'm curious. Why would Wenyang be willing to join the demons?" Long Lin said, "Under those circumstances, did he have a choice?" Ding Ming sighed. "But Miss Guan still died." Long Lin also sighed. "I didn't expect this. In my plan, Xiao Lin would have been sent back by now. Strictly speaking, Xiao Lin died because of you." Ding Ming said in surprise. "Oh, because of me?" Long Lin said, "First, I didn't expect the investigators sent by the Empire's Secret Service to be you. Second, after you entered the space station on planet number 5, the situation completely changed. A chemical reaction took place. What she meant was easy to understand. If Ding Ming were to make a move, the best outcome would be for both sides to suffer. Ding Ming's chances of winning were at most 30%, so the rational thing to do was not to act rashly. Ding Ming nodded. "The reason I'm still alive is probably because there isn't any fundamental conflict of interest between us. If there is, I'm afraid I'll have to die here today." Long Lin also nodded. "Your thinking is also very clear. That's why I asked you to become the spokesperson of the Hidden Front. It's to avoid any conflict of interest from the root." Ding Ming pondered and said, "I'm afraid this conflict will happen soon." Long Lin sighed. "There are still many things you don't understand. When the time comes, you won't think like this. You should go. I hope the next time we meet, we can still end things politely." Ding Ming frowned and said, "Will we still have a chance to meet?" Long Lin nodded and said, "Yes, but it won't be in this place at that time." Ding Ming nodded. Once Long Lin's identity was exposed, she could no longer stay in this official's private residence. An ugly woman retreated from the ancestral hall. Her eyes were terrifyingly gloomy. She had been in shock. She had never thought that the real leader of the Hidden Front was such a powerful person. "What do you think of her strength?" an ugly woman asked reluctantly. Ding Ming sighed. She went easy on you. I know that. An ugly woman was even more reluctant. But you can at least see some clues, right? Ding Meng said, I can only tell you that she's not weaker than me. She's at least 4 to 5 levels higher than you. His words were more subtle. 4 or 5 levels higher than her could very well be a beginner or intermediate martial venerable. If she was an interstellar martial master, Ding Meng would have no chance against her. However, Long Lin was not as hostile as he had imagined. Ding Meng had a headache trying to figure out what she was planning. However, this was not the most important thing at the moment. Ding Meng's first task was to find Wen Yang himself. When he arrived at the entrance of the hotel, Long Hui was already waiting there. Mr. Ting. Ding Meng nodded. Did Madam ask you to wait for me here? Long Hui's attitude became even more respectful. He obviously knew a little about Long Lin's strength. Now that he saw Ding Meng and Ji Yunshu come back unscathed, he did not dare to be negligent. Third Madam has already told me to cooperate fully with Mr. Ting if you want anything. Ding Meng smiled. This is First Madam's idea, right? Long Hui did not dare to hide anything. Yes. Ding Meng said, you should know a little about Ji Qinshu, right? Where is she now? Long Hui said in a low voice, I heard that Miss Ji's mother went missing a few days ago. Later, someone said that she was found on Planet Field, but she was not sent back to the Beta Group.